We are live.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise as you're able and join me in the welcoming of City Council and the playing of the national anthem and the reading of the invocation.
Please remain standing if you're able. Please, members of the God. So I'm going to read the invocation to begin tonight's meeting. And it goes like this. As we come together today, we recognize the great responsibilities that are laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. We acknowledge the rich history of this land, which includes the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples. Today, there are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who live or work in this city. The intent of this acknowledgement is to recognize our responsibility to use and take care of these lands responsibly and respectfully, while remembering the generations past and considering the generations yet to come. We respect and seek to continue and promote the long-standing relationship with the area's First Nations, the Six Nations of the Grand River First Nation, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and the Indigenous peoples who reside here in the city of Brantford. Let us also not forget those who've served our community and who are no longer with us, so we can continue to do the work we must in their memory. Please be seated. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councillor Samwell.
Here.
Councillor Hunt.
Present.
Councillor Martin.
Here.
Councillor Caputo.
Here.
Councillor Sokoli.
Here.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Here.
Councillor Carpenter.
Here.
Councillor Slutz.
Present.
Councillor McCreary.
Here, but not there.
Councillor Sullivan.
Present.
And Mayor Davis.
I think I'm here.
Through the chair, roll call's been taken.
Okay. All right. So does anybody have a pecuniary interest they need to declare in any item that's on the agenda tonight? Please raise your hands. Or hand. So no conflicts. All right. So we deal with what we're going to be separating for discussion this evening. Oh, Councillor Slutz, would that be the John Noble Home Board of Management minutes?
Yes, it would, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Okay. So we'll deal with the items that are going to be separated from our agenda for discussion this evening. We already have 3 items because of delegations speaking to these matters. The first is 12.1.1, Parks and Recreation Department Allocation Policy. 12.2.3, the Ontario Works 2025 Annual Report. And the 12.31, Fire Master Plan Report. And I believe, Councillor Curry, did you tell me you wanted 12.1.1?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so Councilor Secoli,
Yes, item 12.1.8, please.
the Winfield West Neighborhood Traffic Safety Review. Okay. My left to my right. Councilor Samuel, is that a race? Okay, what would you like separate?
12.3.5, please.
0.3.5. The Economic Development Tourism Report. Okay. Councilor Curry, there may be a misunderstanding. Is it 12.1.1 or 12.1.11?
Mayor, it's number 11, the
Yeah.
Aquatics Toonie Tuesday.
Okay. Right, I think we've determined what's being separated. So Councilor Sullivan, I believe you had the motion to approve all items in the committee reports that aren't being separated.
I certainly do. Moved by myself, second by my ward mate, Councilor Secoli, that all items contained within the committee reports 12.1 to 12.4, not separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
Mr. Clerk, could you please read the title of the items we're approving?
Through the chair, the following items are subject to the vote. So from the Committee of the Whole Operations Report, 12.1.1 Eagle Place Neighborhood Traffic Study Safety Review, 12.1.2 Homedale North Ward Neighborhood Traffic Study, 12.1.3 Housekeeping Truck Route Regulations Bylaw, 12.1.5 Municipal Weed Inspector Appointment, 12.1.6 Right of Way Activity Policy Review, 12.1.7 Traffic Calming and Traffic Control Citywide, 12.1.9 Neighborhood Association Code of Conduct, 12.1.10 2025 Climate Action Plan Annual Updates, 12.1.12 Brantford to Compete Nationally in Communities in Bloom, 12.1.13 Balmoral and Kent Road Traffic Control from the Social Services Committee Report, 12.2.1 Building Our Community from Kids Up 2025 Annual Update, 12.2.2 Live Well Brantford Brand 2025 Annual Update from the Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration Report, 12.3.2 2025 Economic Year-End Development Review, 12.3.3 Brantford Accessibility Advisory Committee Report, 12.3.4 Community Distribution Pilot Project, 12.3.6 Grand Bridge Corporation 2026 Appointment of Auditor and Board of Directors, 12.3.7 Brownfield CIP and Grayland CIP Tax Increment Grant Application for 40 Helen Avenue, 12.3.8 Museum Funding Agreement with Brant Historical Society, 12.3.9 Operating Considerations for New Animal Services Building 10 Kramer Way, 12.3.10 2025 Development Charges Reserve Fund Continuity Report and Treasurer's 2025 Statement for Cash in Lieu for Parkland Reserve, 12.3.11 2025 Year-End Report on Building Permit Fees, 12.3.12 Sport Tourism Strategy, 12.3.13 Human Resources People Master Plan and KPI Report, 12.3.14 Inclusive City Strategy Annual Update, 12.3.15 Riverside Hub Project Update, 12.3.16 Bell Homestead to celebrate the 150th anniversary, 12.3.17 Naming Protection of the New Forest in the City Natural Area, 12.3.18 Support for Poppy Project from the Planning Committee Report, items 12.4.1 Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application, and 12.4.2 Draft Plan of Subdivision 300 Campbell Street.
Yeah, Mr. Clerk, I realized I wanted 12.1.3 separate, the housekeeping truck route regulation bylaw. That could be removed from this resolution.
Duly noted.
Okay, all right. So please take the vote.
All items not separated for discussion purposes carries on a recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councilors Sullivan, Celeste McCurry, Hunt Van Tilburg, Samwell, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Secoli, and Mayor Davis.
Right, so the next item is statutory public hearings, but we don't have any statutory public hearings on our agenda tonight. So we'll move into what is the most pleasant part of the evening, and that is where we recognize achievement in our community. And we do have one recognition of achievement this evening. Brantford Girls Hockey Association 2026 OWHA Provincial Champs. And I'll come down in front of the team in a minute here to speak to this. Yeah, we call this the floor show part of a city council meeting. And it is a special moment whenever we do this each month. And generally we do have one of these each month, and it's where we're recognizing members or groups or teams in our community that have achieved something that has brought pride to our community and also is a great achievement worthy of recognition by our Brantford City Council. So tonight we're here to recognize the Brantford, or I guess it's this team in front of me, the Brantford Ice Cats U11. And we're very proud to celebrate this group of young athletes who have brought great pride to our community. And so it's my privilege to recognize the Brantford Ice Cats U11 A team. Yeah, you should be smiling, you should be proud. Part of the Brantford Girls Hockey Association for a truly outstanding achievement this season. Earlier this month, the team captured the Ontario Women's Hockey Association Provincial Champions title in Mississauga, an incredible accomplishment that reflects not only their talent, but their determination and hard work, and of course, that of the parents and the coaches and the volunteers that have helped this team. Competing at the provincial level takes a significant and collaborative commitment from the players, the coaches, and of course, the family members. Your resolve, your resilience, and your sportsmanship have made our community very proud. So on behalf of the city of Brantford, I'd like to extend our sincere thanks and congratulations to players, coaches, and families of the Brantford Ice Cats on bringing a provincial championship home to Brantford, and we look forward to seeing what you accomplish next season and in the rest of your careers. So we're going to ask the team to come up for some pictures, but before that, we have a recognition certificate, and it's issued on behalf of the mayor's office and on behalf of the city itself, and it's to where we offer sincere congratulations to the Brantford Ice Cats U11A team in recognition of being named provincial champions. So come on up, girls. Why don't we take some pictures and let's hear it for the team. Okay, let's turn around. Pictures. Who's gonna hold the? Vincent, isn't this the expositor should be coming up here taking a picture as well, I think? Calling up our Brantford expositor reporter. Thank you very much, girls. And we'll take a quick 3-minute break so members of council can come down and congratulate you. And then you are free to leave, but of course you're welcome to stay and watch the very exciting city council meeting. So let's take a little short break, council members. All right, so we'll resume the council meeting. And we'll move into proclamations, and we have a number of proclamations tonight. Councillor Caputo, if you please move the motion read proclamations. Of course, confirm your seconder, and then you can move on to read proclamation 8.1.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Sluss, that the following proclamations be approved. 8.1 Museum Month, May 2026. 8.2 Polish Heritage Month, May 2026. 8.3 Emergency Preparedness Week, May 3rd to 9th, 2026. 8.4 Mental Health Week, May 4th to 9th, 2026. 8.5 Doors Open Along the Grand, May 9th, 2026. 8.6 Apraxia Awareness Day, May 14th, 2026. 8.7 National Public Works Week, May 17th to 23rd, 2026. 8.8 Brantman of Song, Ontario Sings Day in the City of Brantford, May 31st, 2026. MS Awareness Month, May 2026, and World MS Day, May 30th, 2026. And Museum Month, May 2026. Whereas the 700 plus museums, art galleries, and heritage sites, and over the 9,000 museum workers and 18,400 volunteers contribute to Ontario's $26 billion cultural sector. And whereas museums, as trusted local organizations, create healthy and connected communities, and by ensuring all Ontarians have access to culture and heritage, inspire lifelong learning. And whereas museums promote growth and build local economies while welcoming tourists in every community across the province. And whereas this month provides an opportunity to raise awareness for the vital role museums, museum workers, and volunteers have in their communities, and celebrate their contributions to community well-being, tourism, education, and learning. And whereas May 18th, 2026 is the International Museum Day to highlight museums as centers of education, innovation, and cultural understanding in our communities. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford do hereby proclaim May 2026 as May is Museum Month in the City of Brantford, and encourage all residents and tourists to visit our local museums in May.
Thank you, Councillor Van Tilburg. We read 8.2 Polish Heritage Month.
Polish Heritage Month, May 2026. Whereas over 1 million Canadians, including many thousands of Brantford residents, have roots in Poland. And whereas this month of May is the time to showcase their communities with their rich past and remarkable contributions to Canada's arts, business, politics, education, science, and sport. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims this month of May to be Polish Heritage Month. Happy Polish Heritage Month to everyone of Polish descent in Brantford.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. If you'd read 8.3 Emergency Preparedness Week.
Yes, thank you. Whereas the City of Brantford recognizes the importance of emergency management in Ontario and the goal of Emergency Preparedness Week, Prepared Together, a provincial campaign to raise community awareness on the benefits of supporting one another when preparing for responding to and recovering from an emergency. And whereas Emergency Preparedness Week encourages residents to reach out to family, friends, and neighbors who may be vulnerable or require assistance during an emergency to ensure they are prepared. And whereas resiliency of our community not only depends on all levels of government, but also the preparedness of its residents and businesses. And whereas communities must prepare for the increasing frequency and impact of extreme weather events due to climate change. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Brantford hereby proclaims the week of May 3rd to 9th, 2026 as Emergency Preparedness Week in the City of Brantford, and encourages all citizens to prepare in activities that will help them increase their support system to be prepared for possible emergencies.
Thank you, Councillor Sullivan. If you'd read 8.4 Mental Health Week.
Absolutely. Whereas Mental Health Week has been celebrated across Canada for over 70 years, and whereas all people in Canada need to protect and nurture their mental health, and whereas promoting social connection is an important aspect of human life and an effective way to protect mental health, and whereas mental health is an essential part of everyone's health and well-being, and whereas Mental Health Week is intended to shift societal beliefs and perceptions about mental health, it helps promote behaviors and attitudes that foster well-being, support good mental health, and create a culture of understanding and acceptance. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims May 4th to the 9th, 2026 as Mental Health Week in the City of Brantford.
Thank you. Councilor Carpenter, if you read doors open along the Grand.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas the Grand River is a Canadian heritage river of immense cultural, historical, and natural significance to the city of Brantford, the county of Brant, and Six Nations of the Grand River. And whereas Doors Open Along the Grand is a collaborative event held in partnership with the Ontario Heritage Trust, the city of Brantford, the county of Brant, and Six Nations of the Grand River to provide residents and visitors with free, rare access to unique heritage buildings and sites that define our community's identity. And whereas this initiative fosters community pride, encourages tourism, and promotes a deeper understanding of our shared local history, architecture, and diverse cultural heritage. Whereas the preservation and celebration of these sites contribute to the vibrant social and economic fabric of our region, whereas the city of Brantford remains committed to celebrating our history while building a future that honors the stories and landscapes of our past. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims May 9th, 2026 as Doors Open Along the Grand Day in the city of Brantford, and I encourage all citizens to explore the architectural treasures of our community and celebrate the rich heritage along the Grand River.
Thank you. And Councilor Secoli, if you'd read 8.6, Apraxia Awareness Day.
Certainly. Apraxia Awareness Day, May 14th, 2026. Whereas childhood apraxia of speech is a challenging speech disorder that affects nearly 1 in 1,000 children, and whereas children with childhood apraxia of speech will not learn to speak without frequent, intensive, and appropriate speech therapy. And whereas a lack of appropriate speech therapy intervention may impact not only communication, but also individual outcomes in education, independence, and mental wellness and employment. And whereas public awareness about childhood apraxia of speech in Brantford is essential for families of children with childhood apraxia of speech and the professionals who support them to best advocate for the needed services for children learning to use their own voice. And whereas our highest respect goes to children with childhood apraxia of speech and to their families for their effort, determination, and resilience in the face of obstacles. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims May 14th, 2026 as Apraxia Awareness Day in the City of Brantford.
Thank you. And Councilor Samuel, 8.7, National Public Works Week.
Whereas public works services provide in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives and are vital importance to the public health, high quality of life and well-being of the people of the city of Brantford, and whereas the support and understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operations of public works systems and programs such as public transit, cemeteries, solid waste collection, asset design, and construction services. And whereas these infrastructure, construction, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals at all levels of government who are responsible for improving and protecting our transportation, public buildings, and other essential services for our citizens. And whereas it is in public interest for citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of Brantford to gain knowledge of and to maintain an interest in understanding of the importance of public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas this year, 2026, marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week supported by the Canadian Public Works Association, now therefore it be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims May 17th to May 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week in the City of Brantford in recognition of the contribution that Public Works Commission makes to the community, and that the council encourages all residents to express their gratitude to public works staff when they encounter them on the job, and that council encourages all residents to take part in the Wheels on the Pavement event at its new location of Mohawk Park on Sunday, May 24th, with the details being released for the event in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor McCurry, if you'd read Brant Menouf's song Ontario Sings Day.
Mayor, thank you very much. Whereas the Brant Men of Song were founded in 1961 in Brantford through the shared vision of Bob McIntosh and Frank Holton, and have since become one of the longest running choirs in the history of this city. And whereas Brantford has long been known as the city of choirs, and the Brant Men of Song have made an enduring contribution to this proud cultural tradition through 65 years of musical excellence and community service. And whereas for 65 years, the Brant Men of Song, together with their companion choir, now known as the Brant County Singers, have enriched the cultural life of Brantford and the county through performances of sacred, classical, folk, show, and popular music. And whereas the Brant Men of Song have proudly represented the community locally, provincially, nationally, and internationally while remaining firmly committed to charitable performances, community concerts, and outreach to retirement residences and care facilities. And whereas this chorus has demonstrated a long-standing commitment to musical education and encouragement through scholarships and support for young musicians pursuing further studies. And whereas on May 31st of this year, the Brant Men of Song will celebrate their 65th anniversary by hosting Ontario Sings at the Sanderson Centre, welcoming guest choirs from across Ontario in a celebration of choral music, fellowship, and community spirit. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford does hereby proclaim May 31 of this year as the Brant Men of Song Ontario Sings Day in the City of Brantford, and that sincere appreciation is extended to all past and present members, directors, accompanists, volunteers, families, and supporters for their dedication, perseverance, and lasting contribution to the cultural life of Brantford and Brant County. And I understand there's still a few tickets available, Mayor.
Good to know. Thank you. And so for the last proclamation, I'll call upon Councillor Hunt. This is MS Awareness Month.
Thank you. MS Awareness Month, May 2026, and World MS Day, May 30th, 2026. Whereas multiple sclerosis is a chronic, often disabling neurological disease affecting an estimated 1 in 400 Canadians and approximately 90,000 across the country. And whereas multiple sclerosis symptoms vary widely, and the disease may cause symptoms such as fatigue, lack of coordination, weakness, tingling, impaired sensation, vision problems, bladder and bowel problems, cognitive and mood changes, and even paralysis. And whereas there is no known cause of, prevention of, or cure for multiple sclerosis, and whereas the Multiple Sclerosis Society of Canada is the only national organization in Canada that supports both MS research and services for people with MS and their families. And whereas together we will find ways to enhance the quality of life for people affected by multiple sclerosis and to find a cure to end MS. And whereas annually, May 30th is recognized globally as World MS Day. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims the month of May 2026 as MS Awareness Month and May 30th, 2026 as World MS Day in the City of Brantford.
Thank you, and I'll call upon the clerk to take the vote on approving the proclamations.
The approval of all proclamations carries unanimously on recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Toburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Marn, Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
So we'll now move into the presentation delegation portion of our meeting. And tonight we have 5 registered delegations this evening, which I'll call upon to come forward. But first I'll read the rules that we have regarding delegations. So I'd like to remind those in attendance that we do have rules of decorum that are set forth in the city's procedural bylaw. And they are that no person shall display any sign, banner, placard in the meeting other than those that, in the opinion of the chair, are legitimate audio-visual aids necessary in connection with any presentation to be made to council. All persons present shall use polite and respectful language and shall refrain from the use of any language or the making of any gesture that is disrespectful or offensive. All persons addressing council shall speak only on the subject in debate and shall not speak on any other subject. No person shall applaud participants in debate or engage in conversation or behavior that may disrupt the proceedings. So with that, I'll call upon the first set of delegations, and it is 9.1.1. It's Brent Hutchison, Lisa Campbell, and Marcus Daniel, Tamara Robb. They're here from the Brantford Track and Field Club to speak to item 12.1.4 Parks and Recreation Department allocation policy. So please come up. I assume one of you has decided to be the spokesperson. Two, that's fine. It can be two, it can be all of you. However, we do have a rule that your presentation cannot exceed 10 minutes, inclusive of any questions members of council may have for you. So you can stand or sit as you wish, and you just have to, whoever's speaking, they push the button, and when you see the red light, you're live. We'll get some staff down there to help you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Tamara Robb, and this is Lisa Campbell, and we are here on behalf of the Brantford Track and Field Club Board. The Brantford Track and Field Club has been a part of this community since 1967. We are an incorporated, not-for-profit organization and are proud members of both the Minor Track Association and Athletics Ontario. For nearly 60 years, our mission has been to provide a safe, supportive, and fun environment where Brantford youth and adults can train, grow, and compete in track and field. We are one of the longest standing youth sports organizations in the city and are here tonight because our ability to continue serving these athletes is now at risk. Our 7 volunteer coaches train athletes 3 seasons each year: indoor track, outdoor track, and cross country. We practice twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Our indoor season runs from early December till end of March or early April at the Wayne Gretzky Sports Center indoor track. Our outdoor and cross country seasons take place at W. Ross McDonald School. Our athletes range in age from grade 3 to those in their 70s. And for many young athletes in Brantford, this is their only structured opportunity to participate in track and field. Our club continues to grow. Our current membership is 130 athletes. During our indoor season in 2025, there were a total of 83 athletes registered, 50 of those who were in grades 3 to 8. In 2026, this grew and we had 110 athletes registered for indoor season, with 64 of those in grades 3 to 8. In the fall of 2025, we brought back our annual cross-country meet at W. Ross McDonald School. We had approximately 90 athletes attend, and we were thrilled to see the community support. We are also grateful to be awarded a City of Brantford grant to help us host the event again in the fall of 2026. That investment shows that the city recognizes the value of what we do as a club for our community. However, the new allocation policy directly undermines our ability to continue offering the very programs the city has promoted.
Over the years, our club have developed athletes who have gone on to represent Brantford, Ontario, and Canada. Athletes like Olympians Debbie Miller and Kevin Sullivan, marathon champion Rick Mannon, Canadian record holder in throws Liz Polyak, and Ray Tucker, a current Brantford track and field athlete who is a World Masters competitor and a Canadian and provincial champion. And some of those mentioned, plus others, are inducted into the Brantford and Area Sports Hall of Recognition. All have been proud to represent our club and the city of Brantford. We also have many athletes who have earned scholarships to pursue post-secondary education across Canada and the USA while continuing to compete. This is not a small recreational group. This is a club with a proven legacy and an excellence in community impact.
Track and field is one of the most accessible and affordable sports available to youth. All it takes to participate is a t-shirt, shorts, and a pair of running shoes. Track and field supports physical and mental health and lifelong participation by providing an inclusive and structured environment. It engages youth who may not be drawn to traditional team sports and provides mentorships as all ages participate together. Athletes from other sports like hockey, rugby, and soccer participate with our club to excel at their main sport. For many families, this is a sport that fits their budget, their schedule, and their children's abilities. During the winter months, when opportunities for outdoor activities are limited, access to indoor recreation becomes even more critical in supporting their healthy development and reducing sedentary behavior. Our club has adapted to many facility changes over the decades. We lost the use of Lions Park for outdoor season. We lost our full throws program with the closure of Access Storage Sports Center and no other throwing facility locations in the area. Indoor season previously was held at the Brantford Civic Center, where athletes would run around the top perimeter. But since 2011, the indoor track at the Wayne Gretzky Sports Center has been where we call home and is the only viable indoor training space in the region. There is no alternative. Removing our access is not a minor inconvenience, it's a complete shutdown of our winter program. From September 1st to May 31st, the city's defined winter season of the track, our club uses the indoor track for approximately 70 hours. That still leaves 4,022 hours available for public use.
We want to address a question that came up. Why was the Brantford Track and Field Club not present at the April 7th Committee of the Whole meeting? When we reviewed the policies on the Let's Talk Brantford page, the categories listed were arenas, ice, aquatics, gymnasiums, and sports fields. The only mention of the track was in the arena policy was that it would be closed for ticketed events. Our club was okay with that statement, provided we were given ample notice if our training had to be canceled. Until we watched the meeting on April 8th, we were under the understanding that nothing significant would change. We had no reason to believe our access to booking the track would be eliminated. This was not a case of disengagement, it was a case of unclear communication. Without indoor access, Brantford loses an entire sport. If the club no longer has indoor training, our athletes would be at a disadvantage going into the outdoor season. Some may leave the club to train elsewhere like Hamilton, Guelph, and London, where they can offer indoor track season, or they may stop participation in sport entirely as it would not be offered locally. Other sports in Brantford, hockey, swimming, baseball, still have defined spaces and priority systems in the new policy. Track and field is the only sport that has been effectively removed. There are no other indoor tracks available in Brantford. This is not equitable, and it is not aligned with the city's stated goal of supporting youth sport. When you remove access to the only indoor track in the city, you are not just affecting a club, you are removing an entire sport from Brantford's youth landscape. This impact is not just felt by us as a board, this is felt by the youth who want to participate. Each year we celebrate our athletes' achievements, and on Thursday night this week, we will celebrate the 2025 season. We hope that this will be a time to celebrate and not a time to wonder what will happen to our club for training next year. Tonight, we are asking for council's support. Reinstate the Brantford Track and Field Club's ability to book the indoor track at the Wayne Gretzky Sports Center 2 nights a week during the indoor season. Update the allocation policy to allow incorporated not-for-profit groups whose sole purpose is track and field to book the indoor track. Work with the Brantford Track and Field Club to look to the future of track and field and identify a safe and viable training location that meets the needs of the club. We are not asking for special treatment. We are asking for the same thing every other sport in Brantford receives: a defined, reliable place to train. For nearly 6 decades, we have supported Brantford youth, produced exceptional athletes, and represented this city with pride. We wear the name Brantford on our jerseys and are proud to represent this city. We want to continue doing that, but we cannot do it without access to an indoor training space. We are asking council to take action to ensure that track and field remains a part of Brantford's sport community and that our youth are not left behind. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a few questions for you, Councillor Sicoli.
Hi, thanks for coming out. Were you a part, or was your club a part of the focus groups that were held about the allocation policy?
No, we were not.
You were not invited to participate in any of that?
Probably.
Microphone.
We received some of the messaging,
Okay.
but again, when we read that one statement that we would just be canceled, that we didn't feel like we needed to be a part of any of that.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you were overlooked. Thanks for coming tonight.
Thank you.
I've got a question for you, and that is, there is a track at the Boys and Girls Club. Have you ever used that track? And
So unfortunately, that track is unable to be used by our athletes. It is extremely narrow and the ground does not support what we'll need.
thank you. I think that's it in terms of questions. We will be dealing with this likely as the first item after we have heard from all the delegations.
Thank you.
Hang tough. We'll deal with it later tonight. So in reference to the same issue, the same agenda item, I believe we have Krista is here. I think I saw her. Yes, there she is. Krista Duchesne is coming. So Krista, you as well, thank you very much for coming out tonight. And so you as well have 10 minutes inclusive of questions. Down at the base, there's a button.
This one. Okay. Thank you so much for having me this evening. It's interesting because the last time I was here was 10 years ago after I represented our country at the Olympics in 2016 at the Olympic Games in the marathon. So I'm quite passionate about running and sports. I'm a mom and volunteer coach, so I'm glad that I can be here as an independent person and a woman representing what I think is a very worthy cause. So I have 3 points that I want to make tonight, and I'll just start with my first one. Track and field is an affordable and accessible sport. You just need a t-shirt and shoes and some shorts. And I actually brought what I wore when I was a kid. These are my shorts. And this is the t-shirt that I wore. And a pair of decent shoes. It didn't cost a lot of money. And I think my parents were probably relieved because a sport like hockey, which I did end up playing, but where my older siblings hand me down equipment, this was definitely a sport that was more affordable for a family, 6 kids on a farm. So this sport includes people of all ages, stages, and abilities, and it brings people together with no hierarchy. For those of you that follow running, just on the weekend, for the first time ever in the sport of marathoning, the time of 2 hours was broken at the London Marathon in England. The time was 1:59:30, and also the women's only record was broken. And in that same race, there were people, thousands of people back, huge crowds, people that also ran the same race of over like 5 hours. So it's a sport that brings everyone together, and there's no hierarchy of athletes. So that's something that makes it very unique. Just yesterday, I was helping to advocate for the upcoming Brantford Classic run. We just did a little show that would help with that. And in this room, we have people that will be at that race, the runners that use this track in the winter. And not only is it an opportunity for them to compete in the sport that they love, but also for a worthy cause, where it's a sport that puts money back into the community, such as the Lansdowne Children's Center. So we look forward to that. Number 2. We have pools, courts, rinks for all sorts of sports. After my son was released from the highest level of hockey, he explored new sports and found a passion with football as a student at North Park High School. He used local football fields to learn and play the game. He later went on to get a scholarship as a running back for the McMaster football team and is pursuing a course in nursing to hopefully become a cardiovascular perfusionist and volunteering his time as a coach himself. He just finished his 2nd year, and he trains with Marcus, one of the volunteer coaches that you met here this evening, part of the track club. So he comes back in the spring and summer and uses Marcus, his expertise as a coach, to advance his running skills as a running back. My daughter also, who goes to North Park High School, she placed 9th at the OFSA Cross Country Championships in the fall. And this past winter, she trained on the indoor track at the Gretzky Center to help with her upcoming spring season. again, many athletes in the room wearing this red that we're all wearing proudly, they trained in the winter to help with their sport this spring. Many of them also competed at the provincial running championships for both cross country and running. So like my son, we want children to have access to keep training and pursuing the sport to the highest level. We aren't asking to run in the pool, in the swim lanes. We aren't asking to run on the hockey surface. We just want to run on the track. Number 3, I'm a volunteer coach at North Park High School, which I've mentioned before, and everyone knows that's the home of Kevin Sullivan, 3-time Olympian. And I love helping kids pursue a sport that they maybe wouldn't think that they would do. And the best thing about coaching running is you're not cut from the team. So I help with cross country in the fall, girls hockey in the winter, and track in the spring. A few years ago, I met one multi-sport athlete whom I identified as a very talented runner. She didn't know it herself, but I could tell that she had talent. Again, we made good use of Marcus, connected her with him at one of the local meets. She trained at the indoor Gretzky track and got a scholarship again at a university and just finished her first year. So I'm here to advocate for the sport, the athletes, the volunteers, coaches, and board members. I trust a sensible decision will be made to allow continued use of the track by the Brantford Track and Field Club. Thank you. I don't know if there's questions or.
No, Councilor Carpenter.
Yeah. So do you use the outdoor track in the summertime, either at Kiwanis or North Park?
Do I personally?
No, does the track club?
The club, I think they use the School for the Blind for their training.
Oh, in the good weather.
When there's no snow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise
There's no option for track running in the winter when the snow and ice is on the track.
So yeah, that's why you need the inside track.
Oh, most definitely. And another point about that is that the way university works with athletics, they compete indoors. So university just finished exams for, this month. So those athletes train indoors. Scholarships are determined by their indoor times to get these opportunities. So that is the only option for them, is to train on a track indoor without snow.
And that makes it more competitive for them to understand that feel of that indoor track.
It's a necessity, right? Yeah. I mean, we have access to hockey 12 months of the year. I guess the same argument could be made. Does there need to be training in the winter or in the summer? I mean, that's a question that could be answered by each individual, but yeah, we need a track to run.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Krista. So I'll now call upon our third delegation this evening. I believe it's Lisa and Sarah from the Grand Erie Public Health Unit, and they're here to speak to the Ontario Works 2025 annual report, which is on our agenda this evening as item 12.1.3. So Lisa and Sarah, welcome to the Brantford City Council chambers, and you as well have 10 minutes to make your presentation, inclusive of questions.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, and through you to the council members. My name is Lisa Vermeersch. I'm a registered dietitian with Grand Erie Public Health, and I'm here today to present on food insecurity as it relates to Ontario Works recipients. And I'm joined by Sarah Titmus, our Director of Population and Community Health. So first, we're going to review some background information. In our climate, we define food insecurity as inadequate or insecure access to food due to a lack of money. Not all households experience food insecurity the same way. A household is considered food insecure if they fall into one of the three following categories. So marginal food insecurity is worrying about running out of food and/or limited food selection. Moderate food insecurity is a compromise in quality and/or quantity of food. And severe food insecurity at its most extreme is going days without foods. It could be missing meals or reducing food intake. So food insecurity is a public health issue because many of our messages promote consuming a nutritious diet. We see year after year that many households lack the financial resources to do this. and there are health risks associated with being food insecure. Adults living in food insecure households are at an increased risk for the development of severe chronic diseases, including heart disease, high blood pressure, depression, among many others, and are also at an increased risk for premature death. So locally in the Brantford-Brant-Haldimand Norfolk region, 1 in 4 households, or 25.4%, are food insecure. This is not specific to our region. We have similar rates as the province, but you can see that rates are worsening over time. In 2024, rates of household food insecurity in Ontario were the highest recorded since Statistics Canada began collecting this data in 2005. So over several years, there's been a shift in how we address food insecurity. In public health, we used to think of food insecurity as primarily a food problem and would tackle the issue using community food programming, like cooking workshops, community gardens, budgeting workshops, education on how to eat well on a budget. However, through evaluation and research, we started to see that while some of these programs did have health benefits, such as physical activity, social connectedness, improved mental health outcomes, they were not effective in reducing food insecurity. We now focus on targeting the root causes of food insecurity, as this is what we have evidence to say is effective. We have many incredible organizations in our communities who run food charity programs, such as food banks and meal programs. However, if we use food charity as the sole solution to this problem, rates will continue to worsen. So public health does work upstream. Our work targets interventions that would prevent households from becoming food insecure. The Ontario Nutritious Food Basket is a survey tool that is used by health units across the province to monitor the affordability of food and is mandated by the Ontario Public Health Standards. We do this by using the Ontario Nutritious Food Basket survey tool across grocery stores in our region. You can see an example on the slide of a few produce items of the 61 total items that are part of this survey. So in May 2025, the results of our Ontario Nutritious Food Basket survey revealed that the average cost of a nutritious diet for a reference family of 4 in Brantford-Brant was approximately $1,200 per month. This portion of our work only captures food cost as a snapshot in time. However, to look how affordable food is, we've created income scenarios. Using food costing data from this Ontario Nutritious Food Basket survey tool, we've created 10 income scenarios for each of Brantford-Brant and Haldimand Norfolk regions, which can be found in our public report on our website. In these income scenarios, food cost data is analyzed in relation to income and rental costs to determine whether food is affordable for different household types with different income sources. So the screenshot on the slide from the public report highlights an example of an income scenario of a single male whose income source is Ontario Works. Using local rental data, we can see he would be spending 154% of his income on rent and 47% of his income on food. If he were to pay for both rent and food, he would need an additional $907 per month. We understand that people living in food insecure households will typically prioritize essential needs like housing over food. The situation is worsening year after year for those on social assistance, with Ontario Works being the most significantly affected. We encourage you to take a detailed look at these income scenarios to see for yourself how difficult it is for many to be able to afford a basic nutritious diet. And remember that these scenarios do not even include any other basic expenses like phone or internet bills, transportation, shoes, clothing, or other household supplies. So you can find the rest of the income scenarios and information about food insecurity in our public report, which along with our municipal primer on food insecurity in the Grand Erie Public Health Region are available at geph.ca/food insecurity. The municipal primer contains evidence-based strategies that municipal staff can implement to target food insecurity and make life more affordable for residents in the GPH region. So the evidence is clear that food insecurity is an income issue and that it has significant implications for health and well-being in our community. Ensuring that all residents, including those receiving Ontario Works, are able to meet their basic needs is critical to building a healthier, more resilient city of Brantford. We appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you today, and thank you for your time and attention to this issue. We're open to any questions with our remaining time as well.
Councillor Samuel.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you for being here tonight and just mention that when we had the opportunity to do the nutritious food basket shopping together, that was quite an eye-opening experience. I did want to ask the question though, from your perspective, what would be the biggest difference to people, to a person right now? What would make the biggest difference right now?
Do you mean in terms of income?
I think that would probably be part of the answer, but yeah, from your perspective, that was the question. What would make the biggest difference right now to someone?
Yeah, I would say not only from my perspective, but what the research shows consistently is that income solutions are needed to reduce food insecurity rates. And as mentioned in the presentation, that we used to think programs like gardening or teaching people how to budget would be effective. We know that there's no long-term lasting evidence to support that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Councillor Carpenter.
So clearly it's an income problem. And you mentioned Ontario Works, which hasn't had an increase since this government came to power 8 years ago. They've frozen the Ontario Works rates. So those people are living well below the poverty level and can't afford enough food. Does that have significant impact on their health and the cost of our health services in our community as well?
Oh, yeah, certainly it does. You can see there's also research showing the amount of money that's spent on a food insecure household in the healthcare system, and it's really significant.
And so I guess, should we be teaching everybody to start gardening as much as they can in their backyards, back to gardening again? But the cost of inflation of food is significant. We haven't raised, the wage hasn't kept pace. That's the real issue, is income, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for what you do.
Thanks.
Well, Lisa and Sarah, thank you very much for coming out tonight, and again, we'll debate this very shortly.
Thanks.
On the same subject matter, the same item, I'm going to invite our next delegate, Heather Vanner from the Community Resource Center, speaking to the same item, 12.2.3 Ontario Works 2025 annual report. Hello, Heather. Welcome to the council chambers. You know the routine.
Thank you, and good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening to agenda item 12.2.3, the Ontario Works Annual Report. Now more than ever before, Ontario Works recipients are accessing programs at our organization, which include not only the food bank, but our employment service programming. While the food bank continues to support the many Ontario Works recipients who require emergency food, as an Employment Ontario service provider, we also work closely with social services to assist Ontario Works recipients as they navigate the employment journey. With direct referrals from Ontario Works to our employment service program, we see a number of individuals who are facing multiple barriers to employment. We know firsthand that life stabilization barriers such as food insecurity and unstable housing create obstacles to successfully participate in the workforce. The daily stress of unstable housing and food insecurity creates an unpredictable and stressful situation where the only mental energy a person has is used to try to hold on to a place to live and feed their children. Life stabilization supports are essential to employment success, and food security and stable housing are vital. Affordable housing construction in the city helps create living spaces, but it does not solve the problem of having the adequate income needed to pay the rent. And as shouted from the rooftops from food banks for years, food insecurity is not a food problem, it's an income problem. Last year, I sat here in chamber appealing to you to pass a resolution declaring a food insecurity crisis in this community. I told you that over 10,000 people are accessing the food bank and its programs. And now we know that 1 in 4 households in our region are food insecure. I told you that food bank use had increased over 80% since 2021. I explained how a single individual receiving Ontario Works could not afford to live in our community. I explained how they would receive a maximum of $733 a month from Ontario Works, but have rents as high as $1,400 per month for a single bedroom apartment. I explained that 61% of households supported by the food bank are single individuals, and that 56% of households are living in private rental situations, creating even more pressure on someone living alone who relies on Ontario Works. I explained to you that over 1.2 million meals and over $3 million worth of groceries and food items were provided in our community through the food bank last year. I shared with you that over 50% of households accessing the food bank indicate social assistance as their primary source of income. And I explained that if the Ontario government increased rates to meet food and rental housing costs, half the people needing the support of the Brantford Food Bank would no longer need us. I shared with you the number of working individuals who access the food bank. And now I need you to consider that even if an Ontario Works recipient is successful in their journey to employment, some, because of low wages and the cost of food and housing, may still be food insecure. 19% of households indicate employment as their primary source of income right now using the food bank. This is up by 4% over last year. I showed you how food banks and food programs have become an integral part of the social safety net of our province. How many Ontario Works and ODSP recipients are referred by social assistance staff to community food banks, meal programs, food cupboards, because the Ontario government refuses to increase rates? What pressure is this causing individuals that are referred, and what strain is being experienced by the charitable non-government funded programs who are trying to meet this increased demand? We hear a lot of talk about how food charity is not the answer to food insecurity, but honestly, without an increase in rates, that would cover basic living costs, what else is there right now? I was pleased to see the passing of the declaration of the food insecurity emergency last year. I felt for the first time that our local government was taking a serious stance on the issue of food insecurity and poverty in our community. And I'm sure you remember that the declaration indicated that the Brantford City Council would declare a food insecurity emergency in the city of Brantford, and that the province of Ontario and the government of Canada be requested, in accordance with their respective mandates, to increase the rates of income support programs, to increase direct funding to local organizations providing food and other basic needs, to increase funding to food nutrition programs, to increase investment in affordable housing, to establish a guaranteed livable basic income, to review the feasibility of additional income support measures, and include the reduction of food insecurity as a component of all appropriate government policies. The increase of social assistance recipients has risen by 63% since 2021. Food bank access has increased by 80%. The relationship is undeniable. Increased housing and food costs with no additional increase in social assistance income has created a crisis of poverty. The Provincial Association of Food Banks, Feed Ontario, continues to advocate to the provincial government to increase social assistance rates. Our organization continues to advocate to you to do the same. 50% of households accessing food banks across the province and in our community indicate social assistance as their primary source of income. Over 1 million people in our province are using food banks, and at least 9 municipalities have declared food insecurity emergencies. Just over 2,800 households in our community need Ontario Works payments to survive. Many households are on the brink of homelessness and experience food insecurity every day. Imagine waking up each day knowing you might have a place to stay that night, or a meal for the entire day. Imagine the sheer energy that that takes from you. I appeal to you to support the letter from Social Services, accept the Ontario Works report, and to keep moving forward with the actions you set out in the food emergency proclamation you made last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Councillor Carpenter has a question for you.
Heather, thanks for everything that you do with the food bank. So in the absence of virtual government listening, because it doesn't seem like they have been for 8 years, seems to me they're starving out people. What can this average citizen do? Like, can they make an automatic donation monthly out of their bank account, $10, $20 a month, so they kind of forget about it? If we had more citizens doing that, would that be helpful to help? Because you must be strapped for money and food.
I mean, absolutely. Right now, right, as a food bank, we are, that demand is so high that any support we get, we're gratefully receiving. And of course, we would want citizens to continue to support our organization and the many food organizations that are out in our community trying to support people. But I would also say and appeal to our community to start to recognize the issue and, appeal to our provincial member of parliament, talk to our local representatives about the issue. As I've said before, people want me out of a job. People want the food bank to not have to exist. The only way to do that right now is to try to increase these rates because, again, 50% of the people who use the food bank need us. Let's create a situation where they don't.
So as well as people making donations on a monthly basis to the food bank, they should also call their MPP and tell them to
absolutely
give people a decent amount of money on OW and stop the 8-year freeze that they've had on OW rates.
Yeah. It's been too long. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Again, we'll be debating this shortly, sometime the next half hour. And thank you again for coming out to speak to this very important subject. So we now move to our fifth and final delegation. It's Josh Horn, who is speaking to us from the Brantford Professional Firefighters Association regarding item 12.31, the Fire Master Plan Report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Josh Van Horn. I'm the elected president of the 144 members of that comprise the Brantford Professional Firefighters Association. I'm here to speak in favor this evening of the adoption of the proposed Fire Master Plan. And I commend staff for the advanced planning that has gone into completing this important exercise, as well as thank Bear Consulting for their work. What stands out to me is that this plan doesn't just rely on data. It reflects the lived experiences of our firefighters. Through the survey conducted as part of this process, our members expressed real concern about the adequacy of fire protection in Brantford. There's also concern that we are not consistently meeting the training requirements needed to safely respond to increasingly complex emergencies. A reminder that these are the people responding when our residents call 911. And when they tell us there are gaps, we need to take it seriously. What's important here is that this isn't just anecdotal. If you look at the Fire Master Plan itself, the feedback from members is clearly documented. On page 293, the report outlines firefighter responses specifically related to station location and functionality. Our members are identifying real concerns with how the current system is operating, how stations are positioned, and how they function, as well as how this impacts response. This reinforces the pressures we're talking about today that are not just theoretical. They're being experienced in real time by the firefighters serving our community. And this is where leadership matters. This report gives you the information, it gives you the data, it gives you the voices of the people doing the job, but it takes leadership to act on it. It takes leadership to look beyond individual pieces like one station location and focus on the system as a whole. It takes leadership to make decisions today that prepare the city for tomorrow. Even when those decisions are difficult, this is one of those moments where leadership is required, and not just to adopt a plan, but to follow through on it. There's a lot of discussion on the April 14th meeting about the relocation of station number 3. And I want to say that I appreciate the level of engagement from council on that issue. But I also think it's important to recognize that relocating station number 3 is the last step in a much broader process. This plan is built on current response data and our current community risk assessment. It is identifying where we are today and where the pressure points already exist. That means we are not talking about future problems. We are talking about current gaps in service. Staffing is one of the most critical issues in this entire plan. We are not just planning to expand the service, we are planning to replace a large portion of it at the same time. That includes the need to properly staff Rescue 99, which has already been purchased, delivered, and is ready to serve the community. Staffing that unit improves coverage and strengthens our ability to respond to complex incidents across the city. The same applies to the 5th station in the Southeast Corridor. Growth is already happening and response coverage needs to keep pace. Recruitment, training, and development take time. If we do not hire ahead of these needs, we risk creating coverage gaps and placing additional strain on the existing system. There's also the conversation around station number 4 and the concept of eventually twinning that station. Growth in that area has already taken place and call demand is already there. Planning for additional apparatus and staffing station number 4 is not about future speculation. It's about responding to current realities on the ground. Training is a key part of this conversation. The recommendation for a dedicated training center is essential. If we are going to prepare new recruits and maintain the skills of our existing members, the complexity of the job continues to evolve and our training capacity needs to evolve with it. None of this happens without investment, and that's where intergovernmental relations become critically important. This cannot fall solely on the municipal tax base. There are real opportunities available through fire protection grants, skills development fund, and funding for the transition to next generation 911. But those opportunities require action. We need to be proactive in building relationships, making the ask, and positioning Brantford to access these funding streams. There's also an opportunity on the revenue side that should not be overlooked. Expanding our dispatch services to other jurisdictions is something that deserves serious consideration. We have the infrastructure and the expertise, and there are municipalities that need these services. That represents an opportunity to offset costs and strengthen our overall system. This was a recommendation in the 2019 Fire Master Plan. I may have missed it, but I believe it's absent in this report. At the end of the day, this Fire Master Plan provides a roadmap. It identifies the pressures we are facing, growth, increasing demand, more complex risks, and a significant wave of retirements. It outlines the gaps and gives us a path forward, but a plan alone does not improve public safety. Action does, investment does, leadership does. Appropriate resources must be allocated to ensure effective service delivery. As demand continues to rise, firefighters cannot be expected to keep doing more with less when lives depend on timely, effective response to 911 calls. Safe staffing levels are not optional. They're a public safety requirement. So council, this is your moment to lead, not just to approve a document, but to set the path which will define public safety in this city. I respectfully ask for your support this evening on behalf of myself and the firefighters of Brantford. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Councilor Carpenter.
Thanks, Josh. And one thing that you said that I wanted to question on dispatch services, an opportunity to provide dispatch service to other municipalities and other areas and make some revenue on it as well. Do you know what areas that would be? Brant County for sure, but
yeah, Brant County and Six Nations are the current jurisdictions we dispatch for. We have contracts that are multi-year. The fire chief can speak to them more elaborately, but that are multi-year that provide revenue for the services. Our infrastructure is already existing. It's really based around the transition from legacy 911 to next generation 911 that creates the demand.
And there's other municipalities outside of that?
Yeah, other municipalities, exactly. Legacy 911, so 911 services as we know it are no longer going to exist later, this year. And we're going to be going to transitioning to next generation 911. That's going to require, all communities to be on that system. All communities to be.
Is that a practice some jurisdictions have brought in where dispatch service can be provided for a wide variety and it could be centered here?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah, that's the idea. Yeah. Thanks.
Once again, thanks very much, Josh, for coming out and for the service of your members to our community. So that completes the delegation section for tonight's evening. So we'll move into the clerk's report and communication. I believe Councillor Martin, you've got the motion to receive the clerk's report.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move, second by Councilor McCurry, that the clerk's report on communication for April 2026 be received.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing no hands raised, I'll call the vote. Yep.
The clerk's report on communication carries unanimously on recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Celeste, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, Mayor Davis.
Right, we'll move into approving minutes. I believe Councillor Carpenter, you have that motion.
I don't have that motion, but I guess I will read that motion. I move the minutes from 11 point, moved by myself, second by my ward mate, Council Linda Hunt, that the minutes of 11.1 Special City Council and March 24th, 26, and 11.2 Special City Council Private Confidential March 24th, 11.3 City Council March 24th, 2026, and the following minutes be received, the John Noble Home Committee of Management, March 11th, 2026.
So, not seeing any hands raised as to form content. We'll deal with this separately because of Councillor Sluss's conflict on the John Noble Home Committee of Management meeting minutes. So first of all, call the vote on the special city council and city council minutes.
The adoption of the city council minutes carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Sless, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
And the vote on the John Noble Home Committee of Management meeting minutes.
The John Noble Home Committee of Management minutes carries unanimously, noting Councillor Sluss's conflict. On a recorded vote of 10-0, members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
All right, Councillor, would you please read the motion to place the separate items from the committee reports on the floor for discussion?
I will, that all items in the committee reports, items 12.1 through 12.4, separated for discussion purposes, be approved.
Thank you. So we'll deal with first with the items where we had delegations speaking to those items. And so we'll be dealing first of all with item 12.1.4, which is the Parks and Recreation Department allocation policy, which, since we've already debated this account, I know we've got a couple of amendments. I'll go right into that. And I believe Councillor McCreary will take your amendment first.
Mayor, thank you very much. I'm just looking for that now. Just bear with me a second. It's going to be seconded by Councillor Martin. And sorry, Mayor. Does the clerk have the edited version? Yeah, sorry. So there we are. The amendment reads that Clause F be amended as follows: to add, in brackets, excluding the Brantford Track and Field Club. And as I said, seconded by Councillor Martin. And with respect to the amendment, Mayor, we have a set process here that we follow religiously. We introduce notice of motion. If it's introduced by a councillor, we publish the agenda to the public in advance of the first meeting. We debate things at committee of the whole, then we debate a second time at council. And tonight you're seeing the culmination of the effectiveness of that policy. We embarked upon the allocation policy at committee of the whole earlier in the month. We neglected to consult with Brantford Track and Field Club, and they sort of missed out on the opportunity to correspond with us earlier. So what we're doing is fixing what has gone a bit astray. Certainly, we value the contribution of the Track and Field Club, and certainly, if you look at the contributions and work of folks like Krista, you can see that that's an important part of our community. They do good work, and it's a sport to which every kid is accessible. A lot of families can't afford hockey. A lot of families can't afford lacrosse. Everybody can afford a pair of shoes and a t-shirt. So what we're doing is we're putting the genie back in the bottle, but we're also following through on our intention, which is to maximize the availability of that track to the public to come in there and walk and run for free. It's something that Councillor Martin and I introduced during the construction phase of Gretzky Center. I think we spent about $250,000 on that, and we've gotten every penny's worth out of that. So this allows us, Mayor, to allow the Track and Field Club to continue to do the good work in our facility that they've been doing all along. It also allows us to maximize the track time available to the public free of charge. And I should say that this is the good work of our municipal staff in having this land on our plates. It's a huge volume of work. We had a couple of tweaks to make. We didn't get it all correct the first time, but it's a testament to the diligence of our staff. And you know what else? It's also a testament to the response of the public to help us and our staff arrive at the right decisions with respect to the allocation of sports fields, arenas, community centers, and so on, Mayor. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Right, to the amendment, Councillor Scow.
I was very pleased to see this amendment come forward, and I was always jealous of the track kids, the kids that could run. I never made that team, but I did always make the shot put team, so that's something. But this club has experienced a lot of loss. We saw in the presentation, we keep taking away their facilities. And it's not a new club by any stretch of the imagination. You guys have been here for 60 years, and I'm really sorry that about this oversight. And we have a really worthwhile cause here. We have a very low barrier, as we've heard, activity for young kids, and it's not often between dance and hockey. Those sports cost a fortune, and here we have something that costs, a couple bucks for a pair of shoes and some track clothes. So, I'm sorry. That's all I'm going to say. I'm sorry. But we have an opportunity to correct this oversight tonight, and I think I'm hopeful that we're going to do that for you. So I have full support for this amendment.
Councillor Sluss, did you have your hand up? Yes, you did. Go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll be enthusiastically supporting this amendment. It makes no sense to shut out future Olympians, folks looking for scholarships, kids trying to just be healthy. So
Councillor Sluss, there's something, we're having problems with the audio of your audio coming in.
Okay.
We're getting an echo. There must be something you've done with your computer. It's not us. It can't be us. So with that, I'm going to call the vote on the council.
Can't even speak. Like this
Gotta
thing
raise
is so.
your hands quickly. Councillor Carpenter and then Van Tilburg.
It was, and I thought you saw me. So I just kudos to everybody that came here tonight and everybody that sent us email. That's why this amendment is before us. We wouldn't have been aware of the need because it wasn't part of the report. And so you've made us aware of it. And it's when the community comes out and tells us what the needs are and helps us become aware of it, that allows us to make these changes in the process. And that's why we have a committee, the whole process first, so you become aware of where we're going. And that was probably the first time you heard about it, as some of you have already said. And then you've come here not only to speak to it very courageously, but you've sent us lots of emails reminding us of the need. And so I wholly support this amendment because we're correcting something that you made us aware of. Thank you for doing the work that made this happen.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
I'm happy to support the amendment. I didn't know which way the amendment would be coming. I think this actually sets it back to where it should be. One of the things that did catch my attention was that, it was mentioned by the track and field club that they didn't feel that what was being changed was going to affect them. And thus, there was no need to provide input if you don't think it's going to affect you. So I really have to appreciate the fact that after you heard the committee of the whole discussions that you all realized it was going to affect you all, because at that time, I also did not know how much it was going to affect you. So essentially the race had started and the gun was fired and you hadn't taken one step yet. But I can just say that with the numbers of you that showed up, the number of emails, it would appear to me, and I'm pretty confident in saying this, that you're going to cross the finish line in first and taking the win on this one. So congratulations to you all for coming here.
Councillor Samuel.
Not really sure how I follow that. I just wanted to say that this really does speaks to the importance of communication, and I do appreciate all of the emails that I received bringing this to our attention, and I wholeheartedly will be supporting this tonight because it's very important that we make sure you have somewhere to train. Thank you.
Great. With that, we can call the vote on the amendment.
Mayor, if I could just jump back in for a second.
No, you have one speaking opportunity at council. You've had.
Oh, right, it's an amendment. I'll speak after. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, call the vote.
The amendment to item 12.1.4 carries unanimously and recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council vote in favor are as follows. Councilors Van Tilburg, Hunt, McCurry, Sless, Sullivan, Samwell, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, so we've had one amendment. I think there's another amendment. I believe Councillor Sokoli, you've got an amendment. Floor is yours.
Thank you. I do have another amendment. It's pertaining to clause D. So what I'm looking to do is add the words on a yearly basis to the end of clause D. So that would read now as that City Council approved the Parks and Recreation Department to proceed in 2026 with removing and resetting historical user status for all existing non-local sport user groups on a yearly basis. And I believe this amendment is seconded by Councillor Caputo. And if I may speak to that.
Go ahead.
Perfect. So this might not seem like much, these few words at the end of this clause, but what it does is it ensures that local user groups remain a priority every year in perpetuity. So this is a very Brantford first approach. And why am I looking at doing this? Well, we heard from a lot of local user groups at our committee of the whole meeting, and they seemed really adamant at promoting a very Brantford first local user group approach when we're allocating our facilities here. We learned that many other municipalities are already doing it this way. And we know that as our population is growing, Brantford user groups are adding more teams, and Brantford is adding more user groups. So by having this reset year after year, it makes sure that we're taking care of all of the Brantford user groups first. And then we're opening up to all historical non-local groups. And this doesn't mean that we aren't dealing with any non-local groups, but it does ensure that our Brantford user groups have what they need first. And then we're offering it up to any outside municipalities. So I hope that I have everyone's support here tonight for this very Brantford first approach to allocating our own facilities here.
Okay, on the Councillor Carpenter on the amendment.
Yes, and I thank Councilor Scully for adding that little piece. It does make a complete difference as far as making sure local user groups get first access. And I agree with it wholeheartedly, and I will support it.
Okay, so with that, I'll call, Councillor Samwell. Sorry, I think I had Councillor Caputo and then Councillor Samwell.
Nice job tonight, sir. When this was presented, when we brought this forth at committee of the whole, there was certainly a strong renaissance from everyone to say that we needed to support the local groups first. And after having discussions today with Councillor Scully, it just seemed like we either grandfather it or we do something, but this has to be a preference made to our local groups and keep Brantford first. And then we'll worry about everything else after that. So certainly supporting this, and we definitely have heard you and all the emails. And if I can just go along with what everybody was trying to use in puns, we took this and we ran with it. How's that?
Councillor Samwell, you're next.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just had a question for staff. I wanted to know what this will mean to local users to reset every year like this.
Through the chair to you, Councillor Samwell, Kim Weisgeld, Director of Parks and Rec. This will be really great for the local groups. I've heard from especially the baseball, that if they get additional, 200 kids that want to register, they'll be able to accommodate them if we give preference to the Brantford local groups.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Yeah, if I could, just how does the amendment change what was planned to happen versus what is going to happen with the amendment? What's the significance of that?
So going forward, if we weren't going to do the reset yearly and you had a non-local group that booked, say, Monday nights, then going forward year after year, historically, they retain the Monday night. So they continue to have that year after year because they've been grandfathered in, even though they're a non-local group.
So every group each year now will have to go through the same procedure that we just went through?
Every non-local group, yes. So if that Monday was being taken up by a non-local group and baseball comes to us and said, we're having an expansion of our teams, we'd like to book more time, we could say, Monday nights are now available, first come, first serve. If they take it, then the Brantford group takes it, and whatever's left over, the non-local groups get.
Thank you.
Okay, call the vote on the amendment.
Mayor, sorry, could I jump in here?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry,
We've heard from everybody else. Might as well hear from you.
faint praise, faint praise indeed. Thank you, Mayor. So this I think offers clarity to the user groups. I think if you read the report, there was going to be a sport by sport reevaluation on an annual basis, but I did hear from people who were concerned that that the playing field still was not leveled in favor of the locals. So this I think offers clarity to them.
All right, let's call the vote.
Councillor McCreary, we're just waiting for your vote. Thank you. The amendment to item 12.14 carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Slesk, Kudos, Sullivan, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
So, any other amendments? Not seeing any. So we've had this amended twice now. Open for final comments before I call the vote. I think Councilor McCreary, you're up first.
Mayor, thank you very much. I'd be remiss if I did not mention those who had a hand in writing the amendment that I brought forward over the last few days. Discussions with Mayor Kevin, with Councillor Sless, and work by Ms. Wiskel and Mr. Ferguson in Parks and Rec and arenas. So kudos to everybody that was involved in helping put that together. I think we're reaching the right decision tonight, process-based and indicative of the fact that we do listen. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't speak to either of the amendments. I agreed with them both, and I figured they were going to pass anyway, but thought I'd save my comments for the motion as amended. This is something that is certainly needed. It's something that might not have been needed if we'd gone a different route years ago when we looked at a surcharge for non-residents for our facilities. It might have reduced the number of outside teams booking our facilities, but this balances things out so that the taxpayers of Brantford who are paying for these facilities get first shot at it, which is the appropriate way to go. And I fully support this. I supported the amendments, and the amendments made this whole motion better. So it gets my full support as amended, and I look forward to it being implemented. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to call the vote on the motion as amended, twice amended.
Item 12.14 as amended carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council vote in favor: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Sless, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Yeah, so thanks very much to all those delegates that came out tonight to speak to that item. You obviously had an impact. So we'll move on to the next item, which is 12.2.3. It's the Ontario Works 2025 annual report, where we had two delegations on that item. So that's now on the floor. Not seeing any. Councilor Carpenter?
Just as like a delegation, what I spoke earlier, I would encourage everybody out there to consider talking to your friends and your neighbors. Make a monthly contribution to the food bank. Make it come out of your bank account. You'll never miss it. I do it monthly. You can do it monthly. You kind of forget about it, but they don't forget about it. It makes a big difference. And please call your MPP and your premier. Send them a message. Tell them it's about time that we took the poorest of the poor and that you haven't given any increase for 8 years and that you finally respect those living in poverty and do give them a helping hand up. Thank you.
Counselor Samuel.
Thank you, through you. So I wanted to comment that, I mean, we've heard it tonight, we've heard it multiple times, that the Ontario Works caseloads are rising and the support hasn't increased since 2018. And so we're all seeing those impacts to the people in our community. So the message is clear. People here are struggling, and that's because of income. And so that's why our social services joint committee is speaking up. And because right now, the support people are receiving is just not keeping up with the cost of living, and it's time to do better. So I just wanted to acknowledge that our joint committee is advocating as well for that at social services. And I just wanted to say thank you for everyone for that.
All right, I'll call the, Counselor Ventura.
You know, I think we've all seen since the lack of increases in wages really rising in comparison to inflation, and that what we're really feeling is housing cost inflation. A lot of that, the result of removing rent controls from rental housings, and everyone said, no, that won't affect older buildings that were being rented out. We found that not to be true. And the reports show that it's not to be true because you can't see that kind of increase in average rent without the rents of some people having to be rent evicted, removed in some way, and that their rents now become higher. So we see that. We see that if a minimum wage increase does come up, it seems to be tied to the consumer price index, but I don't know if the consumer price index is covering housing because it's only 1.9%. That's going to bring it up to about 1790 or so. These figures are keeping everyone poor. The working poor are not able to pay the rent. They're not able to buy groceries, let alone have a car, pay insurance, and all the things. Because I've always believed that you can work your way out of a hole. And if you've been digging in a hole and you can get yourself stable, and you can get stable housing, food in your belly, roof over your head, and you can work, that you can work yourself out of that hole. And what we're finding out right now, over and over again, we did hear this last year, that we are working, we're not treading water. Many people are not treading water. Each month, it gets harder and harder to do so. And so until there's a change, whether it's the provincial government says, hey, we've got to button up and do the rent controls. Hey, we've got to actually go higher than what this consumer price index is on the minimum wage. And my gosh, you know, when you realize that you did have people on ODSP or Ontario Works and their rents go up and the government's okay with that, releasing the rents to go sky high, but they don't match it in order for those people to sustain their tenancy. This has put a burden on us that our community sees every day. And I don't know why the public doesn't shout out a little louder, but I do know that if you take it in a different way, our phone calls here at the municipal level, which many should be directed to the provincial level, to the MPP, we know that we're fielding those phone calls here. But there is only so much we can do. And I'm not here to go and champion all the things that we have done, because I actually, if the mayor wants to do that, that's great, because we have, as a city, punched above our weight in order to help people. We really have. But a lot of this burden can be attributed to provincial government not keeping up with the times, especially after the inflation caused by COVID, and then that with rent controls, where we saw the prices of housing and rents go sky high.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff, when's the last time there was an increase in ODSP? Or Ontario Works?
Good evening, through the chair, Michelle Connor, Director of Community Strategies and Family Supports. The last time the Ontario Works rates were increased was 2018.
2018. Okay.
And-
Lack of income is one part of the equation for this. The other part is food inflation. We've got the highest food inflation of the G7, I believe. And part of that is the carbon tax and the clean fuel standard that the federal government puts on gasoline, which increases the price of everything. Last time I mentioned this, there was somebody in the audience shaking their head no, but that's the intent of the carbon tax, is to raise the price of things that produce carbon dioxide in their supply chain. It's the stated purpose of it, and it doesn't work. It doesn't do anything. It hasn't done anything to reduce climate change because there's no aisle in the grocery store for low carbon produce, because there is no such thing. Farmers need fuel for their tractors, for their combines. They need fuel for drying grain. They pay the carbon tax on fertilizer. All that increases the cost of food, which is the other side of the equation with this whole food insecurity situation. So people need to contact their any Liberal MPs that they know and tell them that we need the carbon taxes removed off. Everything that the farmers use, at least, if not everything, removed completely. So it's something that the federal government needs to be involved with as well. Thank you.
So Councillor Van Tilburg, you gave me an opening. But first I want to say that I think it's of grave concern to a number of us, the food situation in our community, and the fact that we have many in our community that, especially those dependent on fixed incomes, such as Ontario Works or ODSP, or could be CPP, OAS. Life has gotten considerably tougher, and you know, it's very fortunate we have some wonderful organizations such as the organization led by Heather. We have as a city that we do make regular contributions, and we are looking at, from the proceeds we receive from the Brantford Charity Casino, the OLG, and we're looking to expand that, and also we're going to be moving forward and looking at how it is that those monies are expended, and is it possible to increase the allocations that we provide towards that. Many of us encourage in our individual social media to people to make contributions to the food bank. Many of us have volunteered there, or through the various organizations that we're part of. It's, you know, we come together as a community to help those most in need, and I think Brantford's well known for that, and I think we're all quite proud of that. But clearly, no matter where you are in the political spectrum, Ontario work rates not having increased since 2018 just, to me, doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, Ontario Works is designed for those that, you know, all of their options have failed, and they're now dependent upon Ontario Works to be able to live and survive. But many times people are using it as a temporary stopgap before they move on to improve their life situation. And that point, I think, Councillor Van Tilburg, you're right, where we as a city can help and have a pretty dramatic impact on the life situation of many families is about our local economy and working hard to bring good paying jobs to our community. And it's an important part of the work of every council and every mayor. We've done a pretty good job so far, but we can do more. And then, of course, when it comes to housing, we as a municipality, we have the responsibility of providing housing, social housing, along with some great organizations in the community, such as JC's, Kiwanis, Indwell, etc. And I think we can justifiably be proud here in Brantford that we do lead the province in terms of the number of affordable units that have been constructed, either because of incentive programs we've put in place or because they're developments, buildings that we've actually have built ourselves, working in partnership with the County of Brant. And I think those buildings are critical because in those units, in those developments, you provide the rent geared income, or what some people call social rent, but it's for those that are most in need. So can we do more? Certainly we can, and we aspire to do more. should we be proud of what it is that we've been able to accomplish? I think, yes, we should. And I'm hoping I'm sure the next council and next mayor will build on that. And I think they've got a pretty good base to build from. So with that, I'm going to call the Councilor McCreary.
Thank you, Davis, Mayor. And I agree with what Mayor Kevin has just said about the work that we're doing with respect to jobs and housing here in Brantford. And I do want to give kudos to a couple of folks tonight. First of all, to Heather, her organization, and the folks that help keep the wolf from the door and put food in kids' bellies here in town. There's a number of organizations. The other one is run by Don Hall, which also feeds a lot of kids in this community. But I also want to give kudos to a previous speaker who has moved on from blaming Mike Harris. He's now joined the New Millennium and blaming Doug Ford for the ills of the province. Congratulations, Councillor. There's a lot of blame to go around here. All three levels of government increased taxes. I believe your average Brantford resident celebrates tax-free day on or about July every year. Cost of food is atrocious. That's fueled in large part by factors Councillor Martin touched on earlier. We've got gas, we've got taxes, we've got the cost of housing. It just goes on and on and on and on. Federal government gave us a 10-cent break on gas, but I'm pretty sure that the bulk of what we pay for gasoline still goes to taxes. So, people are right to be concerned about this. People are hungry. And I think what's truly, truly disconcerting is that people who work for a living now cannot afford to feed their kids properly. We all see what happens when nutrition suffers, when kids are living on craft dinner. It becomes generational, and there's a lot of work to do in this country in terms of improving cost of living and living standards for Canadians. And it's not all about lobbying the provincial government for more money, although that certainly is an eye opener that there has not been increases for the last several years provincially, but also government takes just too darn much for money from people, and government's embarking upon ideological initiatives that are really sending people to the food banks. So there's a lot of work to do here. We can only be grateful that there's people in our community that step up. Mayor, thank you.
All right, with that, I'm going to call the vote.
Item 12.2.3 carries unanimously on recorded votes of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Tilburg, Hunt, McCreary, Sluss, Sullivan, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Right, we'll move on to the third item relating to a delegation, and that's going to be 12.3.1, which is the Fire Master Plan Report. And that's now on the floor for discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote.
Item 12.3.1 carries unanimously on recorded vote of 11-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, Martin, McCreary, Sluss, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Right, so that completes the items that we separated because we heard from a delegation. We'll now move into other matters that council members have asked to be separated. And the first one would be 12.1.3, which is the housekeeping truck route regulations bylaw amendments. Councillor Sokoli, I'm going to ask you to take over the chair just briefly because I'm the one that asked for that to be separated. I'll speak first to it.
All right, Mayor Davis, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that. So this is, you recall, Committee of the Whole, I had asked staff if they would check, in particular in Homedale and also in the East Ward of Echo Place neighborhood, because we had recommendations for changes on Grand River Ave. So that was to ask the industries, for example, Leslie Johnson, if they were content or if they had any concerns about the changes we're making to Grand River Ave. pleased to receive a report from staff as part of our package tonight that those industries, they're content with the changes that are proposed. Then there are some changes recommended in East Ward and in particular in Locks Road. And there's several industries down by the Military Museum that staff approached for their input. And we did have one industry, Ingenia. And of course, many of the trucks that go down into that industrial area, they come off Colburn Street East and go down Locks Road. And we had one Ingenia ask that there be a change, and I'm going to put on the floor the change that they've asked for, expecting that one of the ward councillors may want to further amend it. And so my amendment, seeking a seconder, is that Schedule 13 of Traffic Bylaw 3783, which pertains to truck roads, be amended to provide the following in respect to Lock Road from Colburn Street to Mohawk Street. The restriction on trucks, the trucks only be allowed from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday. And that Schedule 18 of Traffic Bylaw 3783, which pertains to no heavy trucks, be amended to provide the following. Locks Road from Colburn Street to Mohawk Street from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday to through to Sunday, I think it is. So looking for a second to get that on the floor. Well,
Seconded by
Councillor
Councillor
Caputo.
Caputo. Any discussion? Councillor Hunt.
Yes, I'm going to declare a conflict on the amendment. My brother is Vice President of Ingenia.
Okay, so noting Councillor Hunt's conflict. Any other discussion? Councillor Carpenter.
Yes, I can't support this as it is. The residents there are putting up with truck traffic all week long. And now the staff have not made any changes here. They just formalized what we've always been doing. So this bylaw, the original recommendation is just what we've always been doing and the current rules. So the company that wants us now to allow truck traffic 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is just something I can't support. Residents have asked us to give them some reprieve from the truck traffic. The landfill isn't open on Sunday. It's closed after 5. We can reduce the minimum amount of trucks. I remember when we had it in I think in the 3rd ward, we had truck deliveries to grocery stores at all hours of the night. And we make sure we change that so the residents could have some peace and quiet. And so I won't be supporting this amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan to the amendment.
Thank you, Chair. I too will not be supporting this amendment. 7 o'clock is definitely a little too late. The only need to go down to that area is for the landfill purposes. Those trucks are out of the area by 5:30. So if the mover wanted to change that to 5:30, I'd be willing to support it. But other than that, no.
Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I have a question at the very end of this one. Why the Sunday is included, and can the Sunday be excluded?
Yeah, I should clarify that.
You don't get to just jump in and clarify. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, would it be prudent at this point to see the wording of this amendment on the screen? If possible, thank you. Councillor Caputo, would you like to finish your speaking opportunity?
If I could just, I guess what I want to see is if the amendment can be altered to eliminate the Sunday and keep everything from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday to Saturday.
Are you offering an amendment to the amendment or just?
Well, I was hoping
All
to be friendly to actually adjust the amendment. If not, I can make a friendly to make an amendment to the amendment, seeking a seconder.
Let's see.
I've been muzzled.
So we have the wording of the amendment on the screen. And what was your proposed friendly amendment?
So at the bottom where it says name of streets and it's Locks Road from Colburn Street to Mohawk, which is similar to the one up on top, to eliminate Sunday and basically make it the same from 7 a.m. 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
So no trucks on Sunday.
Yes.
Would that be not seeing that that's friendly? Would you like to?
Can I give a little explanation?
No, is it friendly?
No.
So it's not friendly. Would you like to amend the amendment
I'd like to amend the amendment to eliminate Sunday.
Is anybody seconded that? Seconded by Counselor Carpenter. Would you like to discuss the amendment to the amendment? Mayor Davis?
Yeah, I understand that, and I think it's not necessary because this actually says reverse, I think, of what you think it says. Because it says no heavy trucks. That's what it says. No heavy trucks between 7 PM and 7 AM from Monday to Saturday, and no heavy trucks on Sunday. That's different than the first section, which talks about allowing trucks. So I think we have, in the amendment as it was put on the floor by me, it does in essence say no heavy trucks on Sunday, and what you would be doing would be actually allowing heavy trucks on Sunday.
I think that would be,
I'd like to remove the amendment.
okay, so we have no amendment to the amendment anymore. Counselor Sullivan, you already spoke, so I cannot, we only get one speaking opportunity. Any other discussion to the amendment?
Yes, Chair.
You already spoke, Counselor Carpenter. Counselor McCreary, to the amendment.
To quote former Counselor Starkey, ad hocery sometimes is difficult to parse during these proceedings. So could we see that one more time on the screen, staff? So the mayor's amendment restricts trucks from 7 PM to 7 AM, 7 days a week. Is that the change?
That's the understanding, yes.
And that previously restriction, what was it? It appears to say 7 AM to 7 PM, 6 days a week. So I remain confused. Is there somebody that could briefly synthesize exactly what this change means?
Do we have staff here that can explain the way it's proposed and what the amendments would do?
Mark Jacklin, Director of Operational Services. To briefly explain it to you, Councilor McCreary, it would be exactly how the mayor categorized it as 7 to 7, Monday through Saturday. Trucks are allowed and excluded, and Sunday they are not.
So this is Locks Road. So when would trucks be permitted with respect to the mayor's amendment?
Through the chair, trucks would be permitted 7 AM to 7 PM, Monday through Saturday.
Thank you very much.
Further amendment?
You'd like to amend the amendment? Okay,
I'd like to amend the amendment for instead of 7 PM to make that 5:30 PM. Seeking a second.
you have a seconder in Counselor Sullivan. Any discussion to the amendment to the amendment? Mayor Davis and the loopholes tonight.
I was actually expecting that and hoping that, and I can support that. I wanted to put on the floor what it was Ingenia asked for. And Ingenia, it's not, they're not going down there to use the land transfer, the land transfer. They have their business down there and their trucks going back and forth for supplies and deliveries. But I'm happy to support what Councilor Carpenter's put on the floor.
So let's call the vote on the amendment to the amendment that alters the time from 7 PM to 5:30 PM. Let's call the vote on that first.
The amendment to the amendment carries on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor: Mayor Davis, Councilor Sokoli, Councilor Sullivan, Councilor Caputo, Councilor Martin, Councilor McCreary, Councilor Carpenter, Councilor Samuel, and Councilor Van Tilburg. Councilor Hunt has declared a conflict of interest.
Okay, we now have the amendment as amended. Any conversation on that? Seeing none, we'll call the vote on the amendment as amended.
The amendment as amended carries on a recorded vote of 8-1. Councillors voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sokoli, Sullivan, Caputo, Martin, McCreary, Samuel Van Tilburg, Mayor Davis. Members opposed, Councillor Carpenter.
All right, we now have the resolution on the floor as amended. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote.
Item 12.1.3 as amended carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 9-0. Members of council voting in favor: Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
And with that, I will happily pass the chair back to Mayor Davis.
Thank you for filling in on that, Councillor Sokoli. We'll move to 12.1.8, the Winfield West Neighborhood Traffic Safety Review. And Councillor Sokoli, you were the one that asked for that one to be separate.
I did, and thank you for that. It was alluded earlier this evening that there's a very good reason why every report that we touch goes through several layers of consultation and decision-making points. And this is another example, keeping on theme with the night, of why that's so important. Just today, Councillor Sullivan and I received a letter with a petition attached from the neighbors on Cheevers Road, who were looking to have, I believe Mayor Davis received that same email, who were looking to have some traffic calming implemented in their area. They're having a lot of concerns with speeding and traffic and some parking issues on the road. So Councillor Sullivan and I are working with them, and we're hoping to have the indulgence of council this evening to make a small amendment to add a speed bumper or something of that nature on Cheevers Road. So I do have an amendment, and I will read that off. So the amendment reads that staff be directed to install speed bumps as traffic calming measures on Cheevers Road between Blackburn and Gillespie Drive, to be funded up to $20,000 coming from the neighborhood traffic calming capital account. This is the same funding envelope that we'll be drawing from for the rest of this report. This would just offer a few extra speed bumps to be reviewed or to be installed in New West Branch. Again, this is seconded by Councillor Sullivan. And if I may continue speaking to it, this neighborhood, which is Winfield West, which is the very new part, all of these lands are unassumed lands, and they haven't been touched as far as traffic calming goes. We've had our hands tied as to what we can do. So now we're at the point where we're able to start doing a few things. So I know we're doing a lot in this area, but there's very good reason as to why they haven't been able to get so much as a stop sign in a very long time. And we're kind of playing catch up in this area. And if anything, I hope that this serves as an opportunity for us to learn while we're developing the new areas on Powerline Road, because there's quite a period of time where lands are unassumed and we're unable to do things to the roadways as far as installing traffic calming measures. And maybe we'll learn as we move forward to make sure that we're able to have something in our documentation with developers that we're going to be able to do some things earlier and easier. But I do hope that I have people's support up here just to install a couple extra speed bumps on Cheevers Road. We'll have some very happy residents if we can. Thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Yes, is there a traffic study or a speed study that's been done for this road that we have?
Through the chair, no, we have not done speed studies on that street for this purpose.
Well, I disagree that we should just be throwing speed bumps willy-nilly on behalf of a couple councillors' resolutions. There's nothing here before us. There's no residents before us. There's actually no one before us, and there's no data before us. I don't think this is the way to go. Those things cost money. And there's other areas that ask for them all the time, and they go through the appropriate channels in order to get those to see if they're warranted. It's always nice. Every street would be asking for one. But eventually you're putting the bill. My other question is, I'm told that this is a fairly new area. Do we not incorporate traffic calming measures into new subdivisions that are being created?
Are you asking?
I'm
Stop
asking
that question.
Yes, I am, because I can't answer it.
So through the chair to the councillor, Nicole Wilmot, Commissioner of Community Development. Yes, we do. So through our subdivision agreements and when those subdivisions are assumed by the city, we do bylaw them, and we do have traffic calming measures. If they are recommended or approved, they will be implemented within those subdivisions. I think the concern with this particular area, as it's been noted, is that the area is still under construction and there are portions that are unassumed, and that's where that gap comes from.
Right, there's portions that are unassumed and things could change in the future. I suggest that we not rush into this, that we wait for a staff study. There's a habit that I see in the year heading into an election year. Many councillors show up with speed bump resolutions and stop sign resolutions, and then all of a sudden, a couple of years down the road, you're in another meeting where you're trying to either remove a
Point of order.
stop sign or not. So I would suggest that.
Personal privilege.
Sure, go ahead.
I believe you're alluding to the fact that I'm doing this for some type of political gain when this began a
I'm
year
stating
ago.
that these come.
This began a year ago with a.
So hang on, there's
election years.
please, the two of you, there's no back and forth. The point of order is being made.
A point of
I-
personal privilege.
Point of personal privilege, the procedure is I then rule on it and there's not a debate on it. Okay. So point of personal privilege, I accept that you've made a legitimate point. Councilor Scully, I think we have to be sensitive the time we're in, that we should moderate our discussion at this table. And in fact, I heard a councillor, when I used the word grandstanding, take great offense to that. So Councilor Van Tilburg, would you agree to retract that?
I will retract that, and I'd like a referral for this item to go to staff and have a traffic study come back to us, showing that this particular set of speed bumps are warranted.
Okay. Would you mind kind of holding on that? Because I had a couple other speakers. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll go to, I think, Councillor Sullivan, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. As Councillor Scully was mentioning, we have had many residents on this street come before us with the concerns of speeding. There have been collisions on that street as a result of the speeding. You don't need a study when you can see that accidents are happening because of the way people are driving recklessly. So we as a city need to stand up and actually stop this from continuing. And we have the opportunity to do so here, minimal cost, and maybe save a child's life.
Councillor Hunt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to staff. So I know in the last several years that I have requested traffic studies be done specifically to see if traffic calming measures are appropriate given what the outcome of a traffic study is. Mark, can you give us a timeline? Like, I know that there is a queue. You only do so many traffic studies a year, and the average wait time for a neighborhood to get a decision on a traffic study is not, it's not something that happens in a month or two.
Yeah, through the mayor to you, councillor, we can have that study done quite quickly, probably over the next probably few months, in order to get that done as fast as possible in this situation.
Okay, and would that be bumping other traffic studies that are in the queue?
What we do is we have a number of different traffic studies in the queue. And so what we do is we gather all that information and we typically review them every month to look at those. So it wouldn't necessarily be jumping the queue because we'd be doing a whole bunch at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carpenter.
Yeah, I think the amendment's here because the traffic safety study is here for the neighborhood, and the ward councils have heard from their community that this street has been left off because it hasn't been done, but they've talked to the residents in the neighborhood. I just give a bit of a history. The first speed bump in the city of Brantford, I had to fight for it for 3 years for Johnson Road to get one speed bump. And now we recognize that that's very good traffic calming and it's a very good approach. I wish we would stop using Tarvey and start using cement like Burlington does so that it lasts longer. And we could eliminate some of the bike lanes on Henry Street and those burbs that are causing trouble. But I'm going to support the ward councillors because I always support the ward councillors on ward issues because they're hearing from the residents directly. And the reason I support them is because I'm hoping they'll do the same for me and my ward mate when we hear those kinds of concerns when it comes to our ward. So when it comes up is not relevant, except for it's part of the study. And we just did this adding on to one last week for Ward 2, if I recall, because the residents said we wanted a stop sign reinstalled, and we supported that. I'm going to support this with the same kind of enthusiasm I did for that one.
Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm supporting this as well, but I do have a question for staff. And Mark, what's the cost of a traffic study for this particular area? Or approximate?
Through the chair, just to clarify, just how much does it cost to do one traffic study?
Yes.
Yeah, through the chair, it is just staff time basically to do the traffic study. So we, if I had to estimate, $500.
Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you through you to staff. Did I hear correctly that this is an unassumed road?
Through the chair, that is correct.
And could you say exactly what that means, Mark?
Through the chair, so that basically means that the city hasn't taken full assumption of the road for everything. However, there are many things that we do take assumption of, for example, garbage, parking, and in those types of situations.
So one of the things that we don't assume is police patrolling?
Through the chair, we do assume the police patrolling in that situation.
Okay. So there's no legitimate reason why an unassumed road couldn't be modified by our staff to install speed bumps?
In this situation, no.
Okay. Did you also say that you're able to add this into the study queue in 2026?
Through the chair, that's correct.
And you also said that that would not displace studies that are already in the queue?
Through the mayor, sorry. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
All right. Councillor Van Tilburg, did you want?
Yes, I'd like to do a referral until this does a warrant study and a traffic study to and have staff come back to it, whether it's warranted to put the speed bumps in and when.
So you in particular want not the whole item, but this Cheevers Road amendment?
Correct, just
All
the
right.
Cheevers Road.
And is there a seconder on that referral? Councillor Martin. Okay. So a motion to refer is debatable. So Councillor Scully.
Thank you. I won't be supporting a referral for obvious reasons. I'm amused that we sit here and say that we should be listening to the residents and then the residents provide their opinion and their commentary and we don't want to accept that and we want to defer it. So talk about silly season here. But this is an example of we've already done this would just be duplication. Like we've already done this. We have a traffic report before us. If anybody had read the report, they would see the results of the traffic studies. They would see the suggestions. They would see the Let's Talk Brantford campaign. You would see Cheevers Road mentioned in there. This was an example of not everything can be quantified in a study. Some things are just common sense. We know we had an incredibly severe accident on this road quite recently. And there are so many concerns from the residents there. So this is an example of just listening listening to the constituents in the area and doing what they feel they need to be safe on their street. So I don't need a referral. I would appreciate everyone supporting the residents in Ward 1 in an area that hasn't had any traffic calming installed in a very long time or at all in that area, and supporting the ward councillors, and most of all, keeping the children and the residents on Cheevers Road safe.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I too will not be supporting the referral. As I mentioned earlier, there are a tremendous number of kids in this area. There are a lot of parked cars on the street. Vision is obstructed as it is. So having vehicles come racing down the street, it's just a matter of time before we have children get killed. And the time it takes to do this traffic study, we could lose one, and that isn't going to be on my conscience.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I seconded the referral because I believe that Councillor Villa-Tailberg gave a very passionate speech about the need for whether this is warranted or not. And everything he said about the speed bump applies to stop signs. And I've been arguing against all-way stops that aren't warranted for years, unfortunately, to no avail. Hopefully, we'll see a change in the new council that might consider not installing stop signs and speed bumps that aren't warranted. Because every time we install an all-way stop that's not warranted, we get reduced compliance with stop signs. And we don't have enough police officers to police every always stop in the city. So it's something that we need to take a serious look at. We've got far too many always stops in the city as it is now. And I think the resolution is good because it will allow staff to comment as to whether a speed bump is the proper traffic control, or if there's some other traffic control that might be more appropriate for this location. Thank you.
Councillor Carpenter.
I think the subject matter is speed bumps, but I won't be supporting the referral either. And it's the Bulldogs that win at 3-1.
All right, I'm going to call the vote on the referral.
The referral on the amendment is lost on a recorded vote of 3-7. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Martin, Samuel, and Tilburg. Members opposed: Councillors Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, I think we had a very thorough debate on this amendment re Cheevers. So I'll call the vote on the amendment regarding Cheevers Road.
The amendment to item 12.1.8 carries on a recorded vote of 8-2. Members of council vote in favor are as follows: Councillors Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, Mayor Davis. Members opposed: Councillors Martin and Van Tilburg.
All right, so we have that amended, still on the floor. The entirety of this Winfield West Neighborhood Traffic Safety Review. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote.
Item 12.1.8 as amended carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 10-0. Members of council vote in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, Mayor Davis.
Okay, next item is 12.1.11 Aquatics Toonie Tuesdays. Councillor McCreary, you asked for this to be separated.
Mayor, thank you very much. Toonie Tuesdays is back, and I'm grateful to council for supporting this unanimously at Committee of the Whole. We had that discussion earlier about hunger in this community and the need for families to tighten their belts to deal with the increased cost of living. Toonie Tuesdays, as I said, is back. This is something that our Mr. Ferguson brought forward to me going back a ways, following discussions we had about maximizing the use of some of our facilities. You take Gretzky Center, for instance. We have a fixed cost to operate that building. Doesn't matter how many people come through the doors every day. Toonie Tuesday allows folks who are being nibbled at from both ends in terms of loss of buying power, cost of living increases. It's going to allow families to get their family in there for half of what it would ordinarily cost. It doesn't cost us anything, makes us a few extra bucks, and allows families to have quality time together, as well as getting a little bit of much needed exercise. So thank you to our staff for bringing back this initiative. And on the same topic, roller skating's coming back. Again, that's an initiative that was suggested to me by some people in the community, and our people at Gretzky Center have run with that. And I'm not sure when that comes back to us, but roller skating is going to be back. I believe it's twice a week, pretty affordable. And again, you know, an opportunity for the community to get out, get some exercise at not too great a cost.
Councilor McCreary, maybe that's subject matter of award announcement. I mean, the debate here is about the Toonie Tuesday. So you're moving off. You're moving off subject.
I would have been completed by now, Mayor. Thank you.
Well, I just want to make sure that I did chastise you for going off subject.
I would have expected nothing less, sir. Thank you.
Anybody else want to talk about Tuesdays, Toonie Tuesdays? Councilor Hunt, did you?
Sorry, just a point of clarification on the resolution that's actually on our e-scribe D is directing staff to consult with the community and develop a neighborhood association code of conduct. I believe that's not pertaining to this particular item.
No, not. This is the resolution read $2 Tuesday swims.
So we need an edit of the resolution that's on our screen.
Yeah, so we're getting an edit on that. Okay, good point. So with that, I'm going to call the vote on Toonie Tuesdays.
Item 12.111 carries unanimously and recorded vote of 10-0. Members of council voting in favor as follows: Councilors Sullivan, McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel Carpenter, Martin Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
So the last item that was separated is item 12.3.5, the Economic Development, Tourism, and Cultural Initiatives. Councilor Samuel, you asked for that to be separated.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I did have an amendment on that, so if that's appropriate, I'll go ahead with that.
That's appropriate. Go ahead.
Perfect. All right, so that item 1 of 12.3.5 of the Committee of the Whole Planning and Administration Report be struck and replaced by the following: that report number 2026-177, next steps regarding naming the Parkette stage, be received, and that the Parkette stage name be named Market Street Stage, and that staff be directed to complete the recommendations outlined in the CEPTED analysis for a total cost of $35,000, and that the $20,074.73 be utilized from the capital project, and the remaining $14,925.27 be funded from council priorities. And just to quickly speak to that, so we've received the CEPTED report back now, and it speaks in there to leadership by example. And if we expect people to respect and care for public spaces, then we need to show that same commitment first. And so this means investing in lighting and maintenance and thoughtful design that makes spaces feel safe and welcoming. And so it's important to invest, because choosing not to invest doesn't solve the concerns that we're hearing, it reinforces them. And so when spaces feel neglected, it becomes harder for anyone to feel comfortable using them, or to spend time, or even just to pass through on their way to the parking garage. So we have an opportunity here to set a different tone by making these improvements. We're not just fixing a space, we're creating an environment that works better for everyone. And I know we've had a lot of discussion about this space, and I think that it's really important that we make it feel safer for everyone. And I hope that she support tonight. And my seconder was Councilor Van Tilburg. I just realized it didn't.
Any further discussion on that amendment? Seeing no further discussion, call vote.
The amendment to item 12.3.5 carries on a recorded vote of 6-4. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councilors Solon, Hunt, and Tilborg, Samuel, Carpenter, Caputo. Members opposed, Councilors McCreary, Martin, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, so we have it amended. Any discussion? I'll say something since I've spoken about this before. If this is defeated, which I would submit to you should be, then I would put forward a resolution to replace this that would have the parkette stage being removed in its entirety after the Beats and Eats Festival. And I say that, I'm not going to repeat the reasons I expressed to the committee as a whole. What I've seen in the SEPTED report, I think, confirms the concerns I have, and I appreciate that the rest of you may not share those concerns. I don't see the SEPTED recommendations solving the problem we saw last summer and what we're seeing already. The only way it can be solved is if they're, well, I won't get into that, but I just don't think it's going to work. And I think we might as well accept that fact now. It may work in the context of a fully upgraded Colburn Dalhousie streetscape, which we're going to be getting over the next 4 to 5 years. And now it's, to my mind, it's even a little bit worse because now we're spending $35,000, which I think in the end result, it's going to be proven to be money not used well. So that's my comment. Councilor Van Tilburg.
Well, one would think that we didn't have an issue prior. And the fact is that we did. In fact, it was quite a nightmare in there. And that's where the community came in and stepped up and said, hey, we've got this idea. And it is part of downtown safety in that if you have a space and it's causing you trouble, use it, use the space. And so that aspect came up. Now at the same time, the mayor still has the idea of removing the stage. We will still have the problem there. Thus, we still have to spend the same money in order to secure that area. Because once you remove the stage, I know what goes on there. There'll actually be even more room. And we could see, again, the same issues transpiring that were before. And we will have to address that area sooner or later, one way or another. I think that's clear. That was clear before. And I think this was people's attempt. So if this gets defeated, we better not be just left high and dry with nothing, because those complaints will continue to plague us in the upcoming year.
Councillor, not sure put their hand up first. Councillor Caputo, then Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we had this discussion the last time, I was still pretty, adamant on the fact that it's something that's relatively new. And in all fairness to staff and so forth, it's not something that's been utilized. So all we did was build a stage and a little area and left it for Eats and Beats. And we'll use it for the winter and we'll bring it back for Eats and Beats. I am still on the side that we need these areas, including Harmony Square, to go to an outside board where they utilize these spaces to create the excitement and events that would bring people to that area. And so to keep the stage, I'm supporting, but I do believe we need to really look at this in a different light to make sure that those areas are being utilized for what they're supposed to be done for. And that should probably alleviate some of the issues that we're talking about here tonight. So let's look at that going forward. But for the time being, let's keep everything status quo and see what we can do to generate some excitement for that area.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I hadn't seen the stage, so I stopped by this week to have a look at it. And it's tiny. And the area in front of it is tiny. And it may be true that we had problems there previously, but when you try something that doesn't work, there's no point doubling down and wasting more money on something that doesn't work. I think the idea of removing the stage is the right way to go. It reduces areas where people can sit and do their drugs. They'll have to either stand or sit right on the ground. And either way, whatever money we have to spend if we remove the stage, I think will be less than what we have to spend if we try to maintain and improve the stage. So I'll be voting against the resolution on the floor and wholeheartedly supporting the mayor's resolution if we get there. Thank you.
Councilor McCray.
Mayor, thank you very much. I too would be supportive of what the mayor has outlined here. What we have is dead space there. I'm not sure that pouring good money after bad is going to resolve anything. I think it's just going to make it a more expensive dead space. Eats and Beats last year, I was there with Lori and we attended a performance there. I must say that some folks I don't think were comfortable in there during that festival, although they did participate. We saw a pretty good act there. There was maybe half a dozen people in attendance because it's not welcoming. The stage is well set back from the sidewalk, and it's just not conducive to what the advocates thought could happen here. I would suggest that we look at successes and maybe think a little bigger than what's been proposed here. I think a model that we might want to consider is what's going to be annualized at Waterworks Park with respect to the pop-up restaurant that we have there. And perhaps there may be merit in offering the community a proposal call to do something on that site that would create life, that would create profit for somebody that would like to embark on it, and that would occupy the space in a positive manner, because when the space is not occupied in a positive manner, as we've seen, folks go there to do drugs and engage in asocial behavior. So I won't be supporting another nickel on this project. I would support looking down the road at more of a progressive type of an environment where we could lease or allow somebody in the community to do something fun and creative and perhaps sell food or do something that the private sector could do on that site. So you won't have my support, sorry. And I do hope that council will turn this down and maybe consider the alternatives, which I think can be far more lively for the downtown and far more safe for folks in that community. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Sicoli.
Sorry, I see multiple things on my screen here. I just want to confirm what's on the floor right now. Is this bottom one on the floor that we remove it, or this one's on the floor?
Yeah, just confirm.
Through the chair, I'm just loading possible future votes. The scribe slow tonight. What's on the floor right now is Councillor Samuel's resolution to name the stage and to invest those funds to improve security in the area.
Okay. So I guess
As
it would
amended.
be counterproductive to put something on the floor to remove it now, right? That would be
Yeah, I would rule that would
out of
be,
order. Okay.
that'd be out of order.
So the appropriate approach
Yeah.
here would be to vote this down.
If that's the intent, yeah, you have to vote it down and then bring forward a different resolution. So Councillor, anything further you wanted to say?
I do actually. I'll take
Good,
this
okay.
speaking opportunity just to point out that I had to jump through hoops to get a couple bucks for a speed bump, but we have people that want to spend double that on a place to make it more comfortable for people to do drugs openly in the downtown. So I'll be voting this down.
Councillor Hunt.
I guess point of clarification. So do I understand Councillor Samuel's amendment has already passed?
Right.
Okay. Thank
Yes. Okay, Councillor Carpenter.
Again, clarification, I think Councilor Scully did that, but item 2 is not on our list. We're just dealing with 1 as it's been amended.
It's been amended to
Yeah,
provide for the additional.
But item
investment.
2, the funding for the museum is not part of any of this debate.
No, no.
Until we.
This is about the park cap.
And the intent here is that this gets turned down, you're gonna move an amendment by substitution.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call the vote.
The main motion as amended is lost on a tie vote of 5-5. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councilors Sullivan, Caputo, Hunt, Samuel, Van Tilburg. Members opposed, Councilors Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Council Scully.
I would like to move by substitution, this thing that keeps disappearing, that report 2026-177, next steps regarding naming the Parquet stage be received, and that staff be directed to permanently remove the Parquet stage after the Brantford Beats and Eats Festival. Sorry, it just disappeared. Seeking a seconder for that. Seconded by Councilor Martin. Thank you.
Councilor Hunt.
So through you to staff, Brantford Beats and Eats Festival, what is the date of that?
Good evening, Kara Davey, Manager of Tourism, Culture and Sport. Through the chair, the Beats and Eats Festival is Saturday, July 18th.
Okay, and I believe when you spoke at Committee of the Whole, the question around the fact that your department was going to plan some programming for this stage for this year. So based on how this amendment goes, would there still be some programming happening between now and July in this space?
Through the chair, I think it would really depend on the outcome, and we would plan for programming if the stage was staying, but we probably wouldn't spend that money if the stage was going to be removed in July or following the event.
Okay, and how long will it take you to remove the stage?
Through the chair, it can be removed in a day and cost about $1,000.
Okay, thanks, Carol.
Councilor Samuel.
Thank you. So just speaking to this, I think something that's important to think about when we're talking about removing the stage is the fact that whether we remove the stage or not, the SEPTED piece is still very important. And we're just leaving us an area and not doing anything to improve things for the people that are walking to the parking garage, the people that are going to the library. And so voting that down or removing the stage is not going to fix any of this. And so I'm very concerned about not doing the SEPTED piece of this in addition to removing the stage, and also not actually giving the stage the opportunity that it deserved. There was never the resources or the effort, not the effort, because there's a lot of effort by staff, but they helped to work well that it needed. It was never given the priority or the opportunity. It never even got to be started, to be booked. And I think that it's very disappointing that we would take this away just like this. Thank you.
Councilor Van Tilburg.
It's $1,000 to remove a stage. There's portable stages. There's lots of ways to throw a stage back up there if we ever want to put a stage in, and we'll do it again. You know, I find it amusing that one of the councillors that actually advocated and promoted that we do a SEPTED on this area because of activities there actually voted against the activities, that the need for the SEPTED there. So we're stuck in the hole. I don't think that if we put the monies towards the SEPTED right now that it would pass. And I don't know if I want to risk it failing. So if the mayor does want to put that in, then I think it would pass. If he wants to put in SEPTED monies to secure the area. And if you don't put it in, Councilor Sokoli, then we'll just have to deal with this later on down the road when we see what kind of issues happen in the park area, small park area. So I'll leave it at that.
I would add, I'll jump in the debate on this one. I think Councilor Van Tilburg's suggestion makes a lot of sense. First of all, the stage, it does create a platform that's, if the stage is out, then you don't have a platform that encourages the type of behavior that encourages gatherings and the type of behavior that many have referred to. And I think, but Councilor Van Tilburg is right. I think the SEPTED measures, in particular the camera and a few of those other features, would be useful to be installed in this area, regardless what's there. I think the stage makes it much worse and more difficult. So I think it does make a lot of sense to consider amending it. Councilor Scully. How about a friendly?
Is someone putting that on the floor? Is something friendly? Counselor Van Tilburg, is that what you're getting at?
I'm not sure if the dollar figures will be the same, but let's just take from what was quoted before. The staff be directed to complete reconnect outlined in the SEPTED analysis for a total cost of 35,000, and that 20,000 be utilized in the capital project, and the remaining 14,925.27 be funded from the, I believe that was council priorities reserve.
That would be friendly to
That
me.
makes it easy.
Do we have a seconder? Is the
Well,
seconder
Councilor Martin,
friendly to
Councilor
that?
Martin would have to agree to that. Do you
Yeah.
accept that? Okay, so we have a friendly amendment, and I'll call the vote. Did you want to speak to this, Councilor McCreary? I think I missed you.
No, I'll speak to it either as amended or as original.
Question of clarification, are we voting on the standalone amendment or standalone resolution or an amendment?
It's a standalone resolution. It's standalone. Councilor Samuel, you've already spoken to this. I'm going to call the vote.
The item carries on a recorded vote of 7-3. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councilors Sullivan, Van Tilburg, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, Mayor Davis. Members opposed, Councilors McCreary, Hunt, and Samwell.
All right, so that completes the items that we separated. Now we do have one urgent report. It's Health and Safety Water Stream Funding Agreement. Councilor Van Tilburg, I understand you've got that, the resolution. If you could just read it and state your seconder, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Samwell. That report number 2026-2027 Health and Safety Water System Funding Agreement be received, and that staff be directed to enter the Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement under the city's corporate policy to receive the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program Health and Safety Water Stream funding of $12,550,000 and $525 for the wastewater treatment plant UV disinfection and chemical phosphorus removal systems project. That the project budget be increased to $17,192,500 as outlined in section 10 of this report, and that council endorses and accepts the funding from the HSWS for the wastewater treatment plant UV disinfection and chemical phosphorus removal, and that staff be directed to undertake all necessary actions to implement the project in accordance with the agreement terms.
Councilor Carpenter.
Yes, so where exactly is this funding coming from?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councilor Carpenter is coming from the provincial government.
All right, so there you go. Thanks to the provincial government for giving us the funding. And I thank them when they do some good work and I tell them when they don't do what I don't like.
Okay, I'll call the vote on this. Urgent report.
Mayor, if I may jump in.
Yes, you may.
I would just like to point out that this is a $12.5 million item on our agenda tonight, and we will have spent all of 3 minutes debating this, whereas on the previous item, worth a lot less money, I would guess we probably spent 2.5 hours over 2 meetings. Just like to point that out, the relative importance of what this council sometimes considers. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call the vote.
Item 13.1 carries unanimously on recorded vote of 10-0. Members of council voted in favor. Councilors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCurry, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
I'm sorry I committed a faux pas when we were talking about parquet. We ended up doing what you were concerned about, Councillor Carpenter, which is the second part. Yeah, so I think to be fair, we were doing that separately, but we have not yet voted on the funding recommendations for the Cultural and Built Heritage Grant Program. So with the indulgence of the committee, I'm suggesting that this be on the floor. It's not related in any way to the parquet. It's the second part of that report. So it's on the floor. Any discussion? Councilor Carpenter.
When we pass this, how quickly will the funding flow to the Military Museum? It's very important for them to get their project going. And while I'm waiting, if you haven't been to the Military Museum lately, you should go. There's a lot of artifacts that aren't being shown that will be able to be shown with this. So thank you.
Through the chair, the Military Museum would just be required to sign an agreement and we could have the funds to them in the next month.
They can get going on their project right away then. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I'll call the vote.
Part 2 of item 12.3.5 carries unanimously on recorded vote. Members of council vote in favor as follows: Councilors Sullivan, McCurry, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, we have no resolutions, but we have 2 notices of motion, one of which I believe Councilor Sullivan would like a waiver so that it can be heard tonight. So let's deal with that one first. Councilor Sullivan, your notice of motion.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. Obviously moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Carpenter. That section 15.11.5 of chapter 15 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code be waived in order to introduce the following resolution without prior notice of motion. Resolution of support for petition E6662. Whereas it has been requested that the council express its support for the establishment of an independent Canadian Military Honors Review Board as proposed in petition E6661, tabled in the House of Commons on April 15, 2026. And whereas in Canada, the Victoria Cross was created in 1993, however, has not been awarded a highest military award since its establishment. Whereas allied nations, including the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States, have awarded their highest honors, the Victoria Cross, to service members for their service in Afghanistan. And whereas many Canadians believe that the acts of exceptional courage and sacrifice by members of the Canadian Armed Forces deserve fair, independent, and transparent consideration. And whereas petition E661 has been signed by more than 16,000 Canadians and has received expressions of support from the province of Ontario, Saskatchewan, and Nova Scotia, as well as the Senate of Canada. And whereas the government of Canada is required to respond to this petition within 45 days of it being tabled in the House of Commons. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby express its support for the establishment of an independent Canadian Military Honors Review Board, and that the Council respectfully requests that the Government of Canada support petition E6661, and that the The copy of this resolution be forwarded to Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford, the Minister of National Defence of Canada, David McGuinty, Member of Parliament, Larry Brock, and Member of Provincial Parliament, Will Boma. And speaking to the urgency, obviously, the government's got 45 days to respond to this. It was tabled on the 15th of April. It's working against us.
Okay, so not seeing any hands raised in respect to the urgency issue, Council. No, okay. So I'm going to call the vote. Again, I'll take a 2/3 vote to waive the rules.
The motion to waive the rule carries on unanimous vote of 10-0. Members of council vote in favor as follows: Councillors Sullivan, McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel Carpenter, Martin Caputo, Sokoli, and Mayor Davis.
So Councillor Sullivan, you don't have to read it again. We now have your resolution on the floor as you worded it to us previously. I assume second by Councillor Carpenter. So that's up open for discussion. Councillor Van Tilburg.
Did I speak to the action?
Yeah, you can go first. I think Councillor Van Tilburg, you'd raised your hand. So why don't you go first, Councillor Sullivan?
When this was brought to my attention by one of the residents of Brantford, a former military personnel himself, I was shocked that we have this award that's been in existence for over 30 years and not one person has received it. You mean to tell me that in over 30 years, no Canadian military personnel has warranted earning this? I think the Canadian government needs to retake a look at this and put the proper people in line to actually start awarding these things appropriately. Thank you.
Councillor Van Tilburg.
Yes, for the longest time, Canada fell under the Victoria Cross, under the for valor, and that was British. And it's a very, very difficult award to achieve through the British as it is. The 1993 Canadian version says pro valor. That's Canadian aspect to it. And we know that we've had many conflicts now since 1993, all through the 90s, all through the 2000s and up to present. It's not a word that is given out lightly. It wouldn't be given out in times when there's been no conflict. But I am sure that at least one person over this 27-year period would have been able to, more than 27 years, 30-year period, would have been able to receive this award. And there needs to be people going through and analyzing who should become the recipients of this award, who did the most and gave the most. It is a very important award. And I'm almost ashamed that it almost looks like, instead of it being such a high achiever award that no one achieved it, but that it's actually been an award that appears to be ignored and not dispensed to those that could have achieved this award.
Okay, with that I'm going to call the, Councillor McCreary, you've got your hand up.
Mayor, thank you. I think the first Canadian VC probably was Boer War when we were part of the Empire, which of course the sun never set upon at the time. If you look through the petition that's active here, it does actually specify a number of people who qualify for this. The one that's most noteworthy is a guy named Jess La Rochelle, who, let's see, he had a fractured spine and continued to defend his position. It also names a warrant officer named McDonald, who would qualify perhaps, as well as a Master Corporal Teal, who rescued a bunch of guys who under fire who'd been injured. So yeah, I think this does address this, and it is quite perplexing why the government of Canada has not awarded our highest honor to these people. The petition is quite clear that the three that are mentioned, plus others, no doubt, would certainly qualify for inclusion for this medal. So kudos to this council tonight for what I hope will be a unanimous endorsement of this most needed and overdue recognition. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Carpenter.
First of all, let me say it was an honor to second this resolution, and I thank Councilor Sullivan for bringing it to my attention and asking me to second this resolution. I don't think there's a member of this council knows how much respect I have for veterans in our community and veterans across this country. And it should be a Canadian review board, the independent review board that decides on awards, not something outside of out of the Canadian jurisdiction. So what we're saying is Canadians should be deciding on what our soldiers have done and within the service and the awards they should get. And I'm happy to support this. And as Councilor McCurry said earlier, I think he's also a very strong advocate for our veterans. We've had those conversations. So I think hopefully this will be unanimous support.
All right, we'll call the vote.
Item 15.1 carries unanimously on a recorded vote of 10-0. Members of council vote in favor as follows: Councilors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Hunt, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, Mayor Davis.
So we'll move on to what I think will be the shortest item for this evening, and that's Councilor Hunt's notice of motion.
JC Park concession.
Thank you for being so precise. So moving to item 16, bylaws. Councilor Sokoli, as Mayor of the Month, you have the honor to read the motion to approve all bylaws.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Sullivan, and hopefully eScribe stays with me here. 37-2026 being a bylaw to amend Chapter 141 of the City of Brantford Municipal Code respecting the appointment of the treasurer and deputy treasurer. 38-2026 being a bylaw to levy and collect property taxes and related charges and payments for the year 2026. 39-2026 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 021-2024 being a bylaw to fix fees and charges to be collected by the corporation of the City of Brantford for 2024 to 2027. 40-2026 being a bylaw to amend Chapter 148, the weed inspector appointment of the municipal code. 41-2026 being a bylaw to amend the Eagle Place neighborhood traffic study. 42-2026 being a bylaw to amend the Homedale / North Ward neighborhood traffic study or traffic safety. 43-2026 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 37-83 to regulate traffic in the City of Brantford. 44-2026 being a bylaw to amend traffic calming and traffic control citywide. 45-2026 being a bylaw to amend the Winfield West neighborhood traffic study. 46-2026 being a bylaw to amend the Winfield West neighborhood traffic safety study. 47-2026 being a bylaw to amend the Balmoral Drive and Kent Road traffic control. 48-2026, a bylaw to amend bylaw 144-88 being a bylaw to regulate parking in the City of Brantford. 49-2026, bylaw to amend bylaw 37-83 being a bylaw to regulate traffic in the City of Brantford speed regulations. 50-2026, bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 being a bylaw to adopt various City of Brantford policies by adding Parks and Recreation Policy -21 allocation policy. 51-2026 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 70-2010 being a bylaw to adopt various City of Brantford policies and to create a corporate policy manual by repealing and adding Public Works Policy 23, the right-of-way activity. 52-2026 bylaw to amend bylaw 124-24 the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the City of Brantford being a bylaw to regulate the use of lands and the location, erecting, and use of buildings and structures in the City of Brantford. 53-2026 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford with respects to the meetings held on April 28th, 2026.
All right, anybody want any of these bylaws separated for discussion purposes? Councilor Carpenter.
39 and 51, just not for discussion, but for voting.
So 39 and 51, are you content we do with those together? Yep. Any other separation requests, Councilor Hunt?
Just a point of clarification, my conflict, and I'm trying to figure out what bylaw it is. 42 or 43, I believe.
I believe would be
The
40,
traffic.
44.
44?
Yeah. 44. Okay. You agree with me, Mr. Clerk? That'd be, yeah, okay. We got an agreement there. Any other requests for separation? Nope, not seeing any. So let's take, first of all, the vote on 44, cognizant of Councillor Hunt's conflict.
Bylaw 44-2026 carries on a recorded vote of 9-0, noting Councillor Hunt's conflict of interest. Councillors voting in favor as follows, Councillors Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, McCreary, Martin, Caputo, Sullivan, Sokoli, Mayor Davis.
And then let's take bylaws 39 and 51 together. On Councillor Carpenter's request, they be separated.
Mayor, on those items,
Yes, discussion.
before the vote. So this was, one of these was item 39. Is that correct?
Correct.
And could staff provide just a very brief outline of what that entails? Number 39.
Through the mayor to Councilor McCurry, Judy Moore, Commissioner of Corporate Services. So that bylaw is a bylaw to fix the fees and charges that relate to the allocation policy that was on the agenda for this evening. So it is updating two different fees from putting in the Tuning Tuesdays, making sure that that's in there, putting in a permit amendment fee, and then it was updating junior fees at the golf course that were shown as being HST incorrectly in the fees and charges bylaw.
Okay, so voting against this would be voting against letting kids swim for $2 at Gretzky Center in part. Is that right?
Through the chair, that would be correct.
And thank you. And the second bylaw that was separated was it number 51?
Yes, it's 51.
And again, through staff, these are amendments to the right-of-way policy. Is that correct?
Through the mayor to the councillor, that's correct.
And the amendments to the right-of-way policy make it just a tad bit easier for contractors to do business in the city of Brantford. Would that be a fair assessment?
Through the mayor, that's correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to be clear that those who may be considering voting against this are actually doing what they think they might be. Thank you.
Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Would the bylaw 39 include the changes that allow the track and field club to rent the track at the Gretzky Center?
Through the chair to Councillor Martin, with the amendments that were made to the policy tonight, so the fees will be reinstated for the track and field club to be able to go ahead and still continue to use the walking track at the Gretzky Center.
So that falls under bylaw 39 as well then?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'll call the vote then. Unless someone wants it, I'm going to deal with them together, both 39 and 51 together. So, Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Bylaws 39 and 51, 2026 carries unanimously on recorded vote of 10-0. Members of council voting in favor are as follows: Councillors Sullivan, McCreary, Hunt, Van Tilburg, Samuel, Carpenter, Martin, Caputo, Sokoli, Mayor Davis.
Okay, and the balance of the bylaws.
eScribe is not working at this moment, so I'll just ask for raise your hand to end the night. All those in favor? Great, carries unanimously. Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
All right, so that has been a long night, but we're not finished yet because we have ward announcements as the clerk and I sign the bylaws. So I'm gonna start to my right, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I don't have any ward announcements, but we do have Mother's Day coming up, so please take a moment, cherish the woman that brought you into this world because you only have one. Thank you.
Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you very much. Well, final call for the summer company student grants, deadline May 15. If you're between 15 and 29, you could be eligible to get up to $3,000 for your summer company as well as professional advice. Item 2, if you won the free tree giveaway lottery, you've got to pick up your tree on the 1st or 2nd of May at 1 Sherwood. You can check online for the hours of operation. Culture Days Artist Call, deadline to apply is May the 1st. That's on the website. I'll leave the Tulip Park mural to the Ward 5 councilors. And that's the bulk of my announcements. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Carpenter.
I'll pass to my ward mate.
Councillor Van Tilburg. Okay, go over to Councillor Scully. No, we're gonna go around counterclockwise. Councillor Samuel.
Thank you. Just a few things. Well, we just heard from Councilor McCreary that Tulip Park, there's going to be a mural on the pump house there. So there's a call for artists for that. I also wanted to mention the Tulips and Maples Dutch Canadian Liberation event that's happening from May 1st to the 5th at the Military Museum. And you can find out more about that at the tulipsandmaples.com website. And I also wanted to just mention that Wheels on the Pavement is coming, as we heard with the proclamation this evening, and that'll be at Mohawk Park on Sunday, May 24th, 10 to 1. So make sure you head out for that event. Thanks.
Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. So I wanted to thank the volunteers that came out for the community tree planting on Saturday. It was kind of a miserable day, but we got 1,000 trees planted at the northeast end of Gretzky Parkway. Also wanted to thank one of the local neighbors who organized a cleanup of Silver Creek. Unfortunately, by the time the rain started, they didn't get far down the creek because there was so much garbage. Indwell is having an open house tomorrow, 6:30 to 8 at Friendship House, 452 Gray Street, to hear about their plans for development of an affordable housing unit there. And I wanted to thank our staff for a wonderful volunteer appreciation event at the Sanderson Center on Monday. Thank you.
Councillor Martin.
Nothing this month, thank you.
Councillor Caputo.
Not a lot, just Poppy Project ongoing. Wonderful initiative by the Brant Station Neighborhood Association. So just keep up that work, and dogs are up 5-1.
Councillor Scully.
I don't have a lot other than I'll just keep on theme. This evening we had the girls hockey team and we had a female Olympian here, and we're just going to continue that trend and say happy Mother's Day to everybody coming up on May 10th. And this is your warning, gentlemen, to order your flowers and make your reservations for brunch. No excuses.
Well, with that, a rather long evening, but productive evening now comes to an end, and this council meeting's hereby adjourned.